Ooh, I think that was good.
That sounded pretty close. ShJuawnCast number 666 on June, the 6th month, with Juan Carlos Gonzalez Jr., me, and Sean Nolan.
Hey, how you doing? I couldn't even get through it.
This has a proper intro this time. Not like it's like, oh, what? We're recording a podcast? What? Oh my God.
It has
How are
been
you, bud?
some time. Yeah.
It's been a lot of bullshit that's been going on. All right. Well, I'm keeping my eye on the stats here. Everything's up and running on my end. How about you? Everything good?
Yeah, I'm rolling. I got the computer plugged in. Not like
Yeah, me
I
too.
don't know, was it the first or the second time that we did this and my computer started dying? And
Yeah, it was the first one, I think. I was like, oh, damn it. I could have gone for at least another 5 more hours. But yeah. No, I might have to run off early tonight because we have there's baby duty happening.
Oh, sure.
And but no, I mean, it's so funny because I thought, okay, you know what? I'm budgeting my time enough so that Sean, I usually come in rather later than our schedule time. Oh, what was that? Did you hear that?
Yeah, that was weird.
That was really weird. Anyway, I usually come in. That was weird. I come in usually later than my schedule time, and tonight I thought, okay, you know what? Half hour early, I can do this, and Sean will be proud of me. And look at that. We're still starting a little late.
We always run into some kind of technical issue.
Yeah, we do.
It's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, buddy, how are you? What's going on?
I, to be really honest, have been I haven't exactly been in a really great place lately.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's, to kind of work backwards, I hurt my arm, or my wrist and my forearm, doing some work, and I'm kind of on the shelf right now with working.
Oh my God.
Which is kind of sucks. I mean, we're talking any kind of work for me to even do around the house is a little difficult. And then there was everything that happened this past weekend with Story Expo, which is a story that goes back 20 goes back 2 years now.
Yeah.
And I actually had a little something I wanted to get into about that.
Yeah, please. Please do.
And I recently, I had stopped actually working on a schedule with my old job. So I was only going to be like, call me if you need me and I'll tell you if I'm available.
Right.
And then the whole thing with my arm happened. So even if the first time they call me was when I end up hurting myself.
Oh shit.
So I said to my wife, I'm like, geez, it really was not worth it.
God. Oh man.
Yeah, I don't know. It's, plus I've been having a lot of problems with, like, just getting things done and trying to, like, organize and get, because as we've talked in the past, I'm trying to put together some kind of plan to get us moved out of here because it's expensive.
Yeah.
And we're not benefiting from this situation. And,
no.
Yeah. But, and I had gotten really excited about going to Story Expo because I was trying to get my ass in gear and just trying to get like a spark, something to spark me, and I thought this would be good for my self-esteem.
Yeah.
So but I'll get into a little bit of that with in respects to the story, the script that I was working on. Yeah. Now we turn the leaf. I don't actually tell everybody what my script is. Not like in the past.
No. What made you change the attitude to that?
The attitude with
I mean, are you talking about like the script, the script that you mentioned in previous casts, or
Yeah,
It's a new one.
the political something or other.
Yeah.
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 Because I had gotten like, I wanted to get this one out of my head because I finally wanted to get working on the other one, the Babe McTeague.
Yes. Yes. Pendulous breasts.
Oh, you remember that? Yeah.
Of course I do. Yeah. I try to keep things in mind.
Culturally insensitive depiction of an Irishman.
Oh my God! Yeah. What was his name again? Oh God.
McGinty or I
don't
know, something.
The stereotypical Irish name, Barry McInty.
It's like literally being like, it's like this guy is a imagine a 6-foot leprechaun. I was like, this is what this guy looks like.
Yeah. Oh my God. Did you finish any of these things or no?
I have. Okay, I got into like a pretty extensive outlining for Babe McTeague with cards on a board and everything like that.
Yeah.
And actually, it wasn't until I saw Licorice Pizza that I figured out how I could get away with doing this story.
Okay.
And it's interesting because the other one, which I keep changing the title of, crap, I don't even remember what the old title was. Now I'm stuck on this other title, which I don't love, but it's the title of it's called Token Freedom. Or A Token Freedom. I don't remember what it is.
Yeah.
Some crap like that. I used to like titles, and now I'm just like, I don't know, name it something. It's just...
Well, I mean, it's a placeholder kind of thing, right?
Well,
it's still early in an early stage.
Well, I
right?
mean, like I sometimes don't like to have a thing. It's like I have a story, and it's named after my main character, because I don't know. Sometimes that gets lazy.
Well, you can find like other titles within the telling of the story. You're like, oh, that's not bad. You slap that on there.
Well, well, Token Freedom actually comes from the story. Something that it's something the guy actually says.
Yeah.
And it's I've been doing a rewrite on it because I had this thought about how I wanted to start it, and it was based on something I had seen. It was like a great way to introduce all these characters, because I have like, geez, I mean, there's something like 30 different characters. It's almost like writing Nashville or something. I shit you not.
No, it's a big cast.
Yeah. And it'd be like, wow, this is one way to get yourself like confused about who's who. But now I'm in like the stage of like, okay, taking these people and figuring out, is this one person, or are these two characters one person? Find a way to maybe merge them. Kind of like how you sometimes take novels and you start making composites. It's like, does this need to be 30 different speaking roles? Why does this person exist? That kind of thing. And I'm still very excited about it, which is great, because if I was just like, oh, it was just something that was bothering me and I needed to get it out of my head, I don't know if that's enough motivation. I like it. I think that there's a lot to it. My problem is I almost kind of feel like somebody else needs to rewrite it, because it's not like my, it doesn't really run in the, the forte of what I usually do. So, that's, that's exciting, at least. I ran into a wall doing my my Ridley Scott podcast.
Oh yeah, I've noticed.
Yeah, I literally have had a motivation issue of actually sitting and trying to get in front of the microphone.
How come?
I don't know. It's I didn't like the last one I did, and something about it really was rubbing me the wrong way, and I was like, oh, I don't know. It was, and I think the last one I did was the one with Gladiator and Exodus and Robin Hood, and I don't know. It was obnoxious. I introduced the podcast 5 times.
You did? See, I haven't listened to it in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I usually get pissed silly whenever I've said this before. Like whenever you upload something, it's like, oh shit, I gotta listen to this. So I tend to drop what I'm doing. But that was like over I think it was like early spring or or late winter when you dropped the last one, right? And I said, okay, and there was like back to back where you released like maybe one and then maybe a week later it was like the other, or a few days later. I remember it was like something that was really close. And I'm like, oh man, I have to really catch up. So that was the last time I heard it. Was back a few months ago, anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the good news is I've done more than half of them.
Yeah.
The next one I wanted to do is. Here's the thing. I did come up with what I was going to do for it, but the problem is I was going to do House of Gucci and All the Money in the World.
Oh, true.
And the problem is that those movies are awful.
Oh, are they really? I haven't watched House of Gucci. And I was intending to after watching The Last Duel. I'm like, oh, I should watch House of Gucci. Like, House of Gucci came out. Oh, wow, all right.
Here's the thing: is that I don't know, like those movies. I don't. Okay, All the Money in the World doesn't seem like it should be a Ridley Scott movie, and House of Gucci, I guess, just by default seems to be directed by him. But I don't know. Like, there's things about it that are just like The Last Duel seems like a movie he makes. Yeah. Where if you were to say, if you were to give me like 5 movies that Ridley Scott would make, I would say that something like, and this is going to sound really out of left field, but like something like American Gangster does not seem like it should be a Ridley Scott movie. That seems like it could be. Like Anton Fuqua makes it.
I hear you.
You know, I mean, just because of the fact that,
Denzel,
it's Denzel, and it's there's action to it. There's cops.
Yeah,
he kind of runs in those things.
Yeah. Do you feel like he usually takes these like sort of quote unquote side gigs to sort of break up the monotony? Like he definitely has a certain kind of he has a certain. I guess I would hesitate to use the word texture, like some sort of cinematic texture that when you watch something historical Ridley that he would do, it's like that feels like a Ridley Scott movie.
Well, that's the
like
thing.
Even a Tony Scott movie.
You
the
brought
lighting
up the whole
and
thing with like historical Ridley, and
it
was like he's good at that, and the whole the whole visual quality of it. I think that when he has to get into making the world. I don't want to use the word lazy, but like when he has to make the world in front of you, it's a much more interesting movie, whether or not it's good or not. The problem, like with House of Gucci, and say like, and here I am doing the podcast for that one right here, House of Gucci.
Well, cut it out if you want.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm going to eventually get into this. The problem is those are probably not going to be very long. Because I'm not going to say this in a negative way, but like it's going to be a lot of me kind of ragging on parts of the movie. And we're talking about, this is like a guy whose movies I love, so like it's all out of love.
Can I ask you something? Like when you watch it, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to apply to Scott. But have you ever get like pissed off at like when you ever see a film like Scott is the great example, right? Because you love his movies and I do too. But then you see him like do something that is kind of shitty, and you're like, oh man, this fucking sucks. Like, do you just get physically angry? Like, do you just ever start like giving your wife like bad looks? Like I can't. She's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And it's like, did I do something? No. There's nothing to do with you. It's something to do with him. I can't believe it.
I will say I actually got, because I've seen All the Money in the World twice. I saw it years back when it had come out. And I was a little, I saw the trailer, I got very excited. I'm like, ooh, this looks like it's going to be kind of neat. It's, like this like kidnapping thriller.
Yeah.
And then I saw it and I was like, this movie is like a slag. It's...
Oh, man.
It was almost like... This is the kind of movie that should have been made back in the 70s by one of those guys who does that, like Costas Gravis.
Yes,
and it would have been gritty, and it would have been interesting.
Yes.
And maybe it could have been mostly in Italian, and it would have been a much better movie.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's been kind of... I'm going to use the word whitewashed. No, I mean whitewashed. I mean... a lot of English and a lot of like westernized,
yes,
like,
I know what you mean.
I mean that like, I'm talking like this side of the Atlantic, just kind of influence on it, even though like 90% of the movie takes place in Europe.
It kind of has like that happened, but that's weird because what you're describing, if I'm interpreting you right, that almost seems like a remake of a movie that never was made. Like a Western remake of a movie that was never made. You know what I mean? Like something that was inspired by Costa Gravis and all that and all those people. But I know that it's like an antiseptic quality. It's like you almost can't like the edges are a little dulled a little bit. Like you figure that if it was from somebody else, like you said, it would have been a bit more grittier or sharper.
Yeah, like in a way. I mean, not that they should have kept Kevin Spacey, but man, if they had made movie, if they had made that movie like really over the top and junky, and just kept Kevin Spacey in with like his horrible makeup, at least it'd be something to laugh at.
Hey, wait a minute! Did they actually get around to shoot any of the Kevin Spacey stuff for that?
They did.
Or?
You can see the original trailer on YouTube.
Oh, true.
And he looks like a young man wearing an old man mask, not makeup. I didn't say
mask.
Makeup. I said mask.
So I'm imagining like to go along the same line, the Ridley Scott lines, like something similar, because I didn't see it, similar to what Guy Pearce looked like in Prometheus, or like was it better or worse than?
I think Guy Pearce looks better.
I think it's pretty good. All right.
Because at least Guy Pearce, like, I think his physical performance is fine, so that's good. He gets away with it. Yeah. This is what's crazy, is that the one thing I will say is that they have a comparison to the way that they shot the Kevin Spacey scenes, and then that they had to do a lot of, like, because they did the Christopher Plummer. They did a lot of the Christopher Plummer stuff, like, on, like, fast.
Yeah.
But it looks better. It's really crazy. Some of it is actually... like green screen.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
And it's not like he's in like a little of the movie. He is in a lot of the film. I will say that if anybody has the balls to do that, that's something Ridley Scott would do. But if you ever get a chance, there is a I don't know if they'll have it on YouTube, but there is a featurette that they had on the DVD, which is just the filmmakers and the actors all shitting on Kevin Spacey about how they needed to make this decision, and they never say his name, but they're like, oh, because of the actions of some asshole,
certain actor.
Yeah.
God.
It's like, and we were so glad that we were able to get Christopher back, and that he was able to save our ass. Like, I'm paraphrasing, but like I swear it was like everybody was given the same script on how to say like Christopher Plummer saved us.
They got the memo from the studio saying, okay, you can no, in the vaguest terms, you can trash this guy because he's under the bus right now. Yeah. Oh, integrity for you.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to make this an all the money in the world podcast, but see, I had some. The one thing I will say, House of Gucci at least is funny, and not in the best way.
Oh God.
Because I finally figured out, there was this whole thing about how everybody has got different accents in that movie.
Yes, I heard about that.
And how everybody was just like, oh, Jared Leto is doing like Mario from Mario Brothers. And I'm like...
Jared Leto? I've yet to... I'm probably sure I've seen one movie that I liked him in. He's just, for me, I don't like him. I do not like him.
I get that. I get that. He is.
You know what?
He is. He is an interesting career as an actor. It's very, very odd.
You know what? I amend that. I liked him in Alexander. Does that count?
Sure. And you know me.
In Alexander.
You know me.
Yeah.
I'm a defender of Alexander.
Alexander, yes.
I'm waiting for Oliver Stone's,
like umpteenth cut of that fucking
I don't
movie.
know what he would call it, since it was there was the director's cut, the director's cut, the final cut, the ultimate cut.
The ultimate cut.
So.
And then this is the. What is this? This is the Ptolemy cut.
Oh,
it's just going to be like nobody will get that. Like, who's that?
Yeah.
It's Anthony Hopkins in the movie, bro. Didn't you see the movie, bro? So one version of the movie. I watched. I still think the very first cut of that movie is the one I like the best. I don't think I've seen the ultimate cut, but I remember watching I watched it with Sabrina a few years ago. It was on Netflix, the original cut. And I'm like, man, this is so good, but it falls so short. And I can appreciate the ambition he had for it. Like, I really can. It's like I felt like if it was like another few hours long, then maybe it would have gotten the point across a little bit for me. But I mean, I guess a few months ago they had I don't know if they still have it up on the Criterion channel, but they had Joseph Mankiewicz. They had Cleopatra up. That was fantastic. Like, I never saw that movie. Like, I never, like, so Sabrina and I just sat down and we, made 2 nights of it. And I mean, for what it was, we enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm not putting it down. It's, the Mankiewicz Cleopatra is an event.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that maybe you can complain about with it, but
sure.
My favorite thing about it is when they find her, spoiler for anybody who doesn't know this, when they find Cleopatra dead, the one guard points over and he's like, almost like, hey, I think he did it, and the snake is like, I'm out of here.
I vaguely remember that.
That
was another winter.
It's like time to asp out of here.
Oh. Yeah, I gotta tell you. So, in lieu of, you remember the question I asked you earlier? It was like, okay, like this is in terms of Ridley Scott. Like, have you watched anything of somebody that you really liked? That just, it came out so wrong that you sort of it hurt and you get angry about it. For me, not that I'm crazy about Robert Rodriguez, but man, Book of Boba Fett sucked.
Oh my.
There were only there were like 2 episodes. One of them directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, which was amazing.
Okay.
That for me was amazing. And another one directed by Dave Filoni. They weren't even like proper, like, quote unquote, like Boba Fett episodes either. I don't know if you heard about this. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. No,
well,
I
don't give it a ringing endorsement. I mean, except for those 2 episodes, which are kind of like magic. But and I mean that like in the best possible, I guess. When people talk about Disney magic and all that, and the magic of the movies, that was kind of like that. It was just like, okay, you know what? I kind of get it, and I haven't felt that way in a long time. And it built up to this really kind of like like the stakes were so high for the last episode of that season that when that episode eventually came out, it was such a dud. And again, apparently directed by Rodriguez, and I'm like, what the hell is with this? Like, this is not. When you're thinking of Boba Fett, granted, I mean, yeah, you're thinking at least a little bit of grit happening, right?
Yeah.
But that's not what we got. Like, not by any stretch of the imagination. And you're talking about poor writing. This turned me off from like Disney Star Wars. I'm not even watching Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm like, I can't. People ask me like, what? You don't want to watch Obi-Wan Kenobi? I'm like, I can't. I have a feeling that it's not gonna work out because they're dropping the ball way too often and way too much. And sure enough, like from what I hear, it's like, Kenobi's sucking too.
Really? Oh, I had heard a couple of. Here's the thing. I had heard with Kenobi. I heard the same thing about the Boba Fett. With that Boba Fett was a letdown. But the thing I had heard about with Kenobi, if you are open to like the what is the term? Not the extended. You know what I'm talking about.
Legends or like whatever it is.
Almost like the
books
and everything.
Well, it's called the expanded universe now. Formally, now
expand. Okay, it
was called that during the Lucas time, but now I don't know what it's called now. Now it's like whatever.
If you are open to all of that, there's elements to it that you love. Now, maybe you don't like the show altogether, because I do know that there's some loose retconning that they're doing. That's putting it lightly from what I hear. But anyway, I know a lot of it has to do with people going, how did Kenobi get so old? Or wait, how does Luke not know who he like that kind of stuff. Really is. I haven't been watching it, but
me neither.
Like I've been watching The Boys lately, so.
How's that? Is that good? I heard it was really good.
It is, but I will tell you, it's not a superhero show.
Oh, shit, really, yeah.
Kind of a superhero show, but it's kind of more about like corporate greed. And is really kind of making fun of like Marvel and Warner Brothers. And the way that they have been like, that they've turned the ideas of these legends and these characters. Hold on a second, I got something in my throat. Into like commodities and numbers and clicks. Yeah. Hold on a sec.
Sure.
For one thing, we do have an update on Cocaine Bear.
Wow, it's a deep cut.
It's gonna have. It's going to have its theatrical release next year. So, and it's going to be the final movie of Ray Liotta.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Holy crap, dude. I did not think of that.
Yeah. So, I'm...
Wow. Huh.
So, really quickly, I'm just going to give myself, say, like a 2-minute spot here. All right, so... back in January of 2020, you had come out to see me.
Yeah.
And we did the whole thing with the figuring out how I could do the editing, and we, which led me to be able to do that project. Yeah. And also, I think that might have been, you might have also brought up the whole thing about Story Expo.
Oh, yes.
And I don't know if it was then or if it was afterwards, but either way, I looked into it and decided I was just going to like pull the trigger on it because I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And then what happened was it was set for March 15th. I think March 15th was the day it was going to be on, which was, I think, a couple of days after officially the world shut down.
Yes.
So they postponed it. And they postponed it, I think it was like a couple of months. It was supposed to be in like June or July.
Yeah.
And then they postponed it again. And then they like indefinitely postponed it. And then they finally set it up where it was going to be in March of 2021. And I didn't even give it a second thought until I had just looked it up one day. Originally, I was supposed to get a refund back in 2020,
Jesus,
which
yeah.
never came through. So what happened was, a lot of stuff happened. And I kind of forgot about it. I contacted them and said I'd still like to go. So they said, well, you're still set up. You can come, blah, blah, blah. I'm checking, everything seems so much different now with the way they set it up. And the venue they had was in Brooklyn now, not the Marriott in Times Square.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
was in Brooklyn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
And to make matters worse, I was a little about this new venue that they had. Because when they had the plans for where it was originally, it was a much larger area. So I was like, well, what the hell is going on with this? But I was like, screw it. I'll just, I'll go anyway. And I had these plans about what I wanted to do because I figured, physically I'd be able to be there. I might see people, get into conversations, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And what happened was they had this whole thing where they were like, they're going to send out these registration confirmations. And I'm not getting it. They're not sending it to me.
Oh, Jesus.
So I contact them. And the same day that I contact them, there's this update that they send out, which was about how due to certain things with the some of the speakers and some of the exhibitors, they were going to be doing it entirely remotely now.
Yeah.
Not at the venue. So I was just like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And they're like,
Right.
you can do the whole thing or you can do the refund. I'm like, I'm taking the refund.
You should, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for the refund.
Oh, again?
I contacted them. They said that they were going to look into it and process it. But this is leading up to the week leading up to the thing before they decided to go remote or whatever, virtual.
Yeah. Virtual, yeah, remote, same thing.
I find these things online. That's Story Expo 2021. Now, this is an expo that never actually happened.
Yeah, right.
Okay. But I guess they were trying to do it last year too, and just they had to postpone it. I posted this this is what the guy wrote. I posted this in 2019, and this idiot still somehow has me on his email list. So I got an email mentioning their 2021 events. Do not attend this and give this guy your money. He did a bait and switch in 2019 and couldn't deliver as he had advertised. He wouldn't give me my money back, and then when I tried to do a chargeback on my card, he lied to the credit card company and said I attended all the workshops. All right, so this is just okay.
Oh, damn.
Here's another one. Well, I hope no one here got burned by Story Expo. Until this year, it's been legit and very beneficial. The jerk who runs it is a slime ball, and he's now lost most of his friends in the industry after the 2017 disaster. He canceled the event 3 days before. I had I had non-refundable everything, so I lost a lot of time and money, and it all was while I was racing to get away from Hurricane Irma. Story Expo is dead to me, and I'll happily denounce it. And the guy, I'm not going to say his name, people can Google it,
No,
but to anyone who asks. Now, this is what's really crazy about this, is that somebody actually wrote this. What's the story with this? It sounds like Fry Festival for screenwriters. All right. Here's the problem I have with all this, is that I had done some research on this and found that this actually was a very beneficial thing. That's the reason why I was going to go.
Yeah, right.
Okay. I had not heard about any of this stuff where there was canceled events.
Yeah.
I guess at the time when I was just like, well, the guy didn't refund me. I'll just whatever. I don't have time for this shit.
Right, exactly.
But I'm like, then what happens is the person who's dealing with me now is not the same person I was dealing with before. Yeah. So I don't know if this guy still runs it. But I will tell you, somebody did say that the venue that they were going to be holding it in was still not finished. Like, what? They were renovating the building, and it still was not able to hold an event. So I don't think they were ever really intending to have the event there.
Holy shit, bro.
And also, I think that a lot of the speakers that they say they're going to have, they just, there's stories about these people just back out.
Huh.
And then they're just not there. So,
wow,
that fucking sucks.
This is all news to me. Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I haven't heard any of this. I wouldn't have recommended anything like this if I knew all this shit. I feel somewhat responsible because I introduced you to this thing, but I didn't. I know, but this is back in 2020. You know, I had no idea this was. I mean, for me, I'm optimistic enough that maybe it'll pick up because it seems like it has enough, maybe certain amount of, dare I say, street cred. But I don't know. It's from here to there. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Oh, whatever.
Sucks,
maybe it will. That's
another one will spring up from the ashes.
Yeah.
Or for whatever this is. Because I mean, I just feel I feel like that's a convention like that would be very, dare I say, necessary. Because I mean, you have all these people who are, interface with all these different studios or production companies and ideas people and people are always trying to get in, obviously. So I don't know. I guess figure that's one way to do it. I'd have to look into it again. What happened this year? Did they cancel everything, or was it strictly remote? Did that even end up happening?
It was strictly remote, as if you were. The way that it seemed, it was almost like signing up for the master's thing.
Master class.
Yeah, you could master class, and you could have learned about filmmaking from Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
I don't know how it turned out because I did the refund. They gave you the option if you didn't do the refund.
Right.
They actually had it so that you could either do the refund or you could attend the thing, and then you could also get a discount on going to the LA one.
Oof.
And I'm like,
that's a stretch even for me. I mean, okay. So it's supposed to be like, okay, you go there, you go to the one in Brooklyn, and then you'll get a little bit of a discount to go to the LA one. They pick venues that aren't even finished yet.
Yeah, this is all things that the
hearsay, I guess.
Hearsay. Yeah, so I don't know how much of it is true.
Of course, yes, same here.
For some of the lead up to it, it just does not. It seems so weird.
All right.
And very, I don't know, the confidence in it is just like...
That's plummeted, yeah.
Yeah. So my 2 minutes kind of turned more into 10. But, anyway.
I think you're entitled to take up the time you want, bro. That's You should. I mean, my reason for not attending, I didn't know any about any of this shit, so I thought, I'm not quite there yet. I don't have anything I've been doing a lot of short story writing, but I'm not I started flirting with the idea of screenwriting again recently and got my I dipped my toe in, but nothing like what you do. So I thought, okay, this would be way better for him than it would be for me at the moment. I mean, for me to go just be like, oh, hi, hello, okay, what's your name? Okay, whatever, and then I'd just be just be your wingman basically. It's like, oh yeah, my friend Sean here, he's a shit. Read his stuff, you know what I mean?
Well, I think, my whole thing about it was that originally we were going to go. I didn't have anything. It was just to go and to get my ass out there and
Yeah. Maybe
know,
next year if I have extra, like if I have a couple of hundred to like throw away, and be like, okay, Sean, I'm just gonna throw this away and then see where it goes. But you know, not to change the subject at all, because along the line of conventions, but around this time, last couple of weekends have been. I haven't gone to anything. Like Sabrina and the little one and I, we went to Cape May a few weeks ago, but along like each weekend so far in June, if you have your nose to the floor, or your ear to the floor rather, you'll hear that there are all these conventions happening up again, including there's Cinegear Expo in LA, which has been doing. It's usually the trade show for film equipment and production equipment. That I'm kind of curious to go to. I've never been to that. They also do one in Atlanta, and I don't know if they're still doing the Atlanta one this year or in September or whatever. But I remember hearing a few years ago that David Lynch went to the Cinegear Expo. This was post Twin Peaks: The Return, shortly after that. So it must have been like 2018, 2019, something like that. And he had gone. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. All right. So, he shows up. That's an event, I guess. But it brought attention to the event itself. So I thought, okay, you know what? I should go just to see these things. But there's that. And around the same time, Story Expo was also happening. And I guess it almost feels like you have to pick and choose what you want to do. Because if you have like a limited, an expansive array of interests, and you want to go to all these things, it's going to cost you a pretty penny. And I don't know how do you budget your time, like going from let's say from New York and then flying out to LA and then flying out to God knows where if you want to go to another expo. Because I think there's some comic expo. I don't know about Comic Con, but I know there's some comic expos happening as well. So I don't know. I throw my hands up in the air and wave them just like I don't care, because it almost feels like you really have to take a look at this stuff and spread it out and have it in front of you and go, okay, what do I really want to see the most? How can it benefit me? Or what am I more excited about? There's also this thing called, I don't know if you heard about this, called Cinema. I think it's called Cinema Fest or CinemaCon, and this is strictly for theater and theatrical exhibitors. So this happens in Las Vegas. I've never heard of this until recently.
I know. So I happen to know about that because of the stupid job I had.
Yeah.
For all those
years. So So it's like, okay, what's this other thing where it's in Vegas and then, they shut the stars out and they do the promotions saying, no, it's basically like a kind of like a goodwill festival from studios to theaters at this point, right? Where it's like, no, we still want to exhibit with you and all this stuff.
Back when there was more mini chains or independent places. Yeah. Exhibits, especially because they used to do those, used to be a lot more regional type of, what the hell was the word I'm looking for? Distribution.
True.
Things like that were extremely important.
Jesus.
Yeah, but it's crazy because the reason I actually got back into looking at Story Expo was because I was trying to figure out what to do with this, I didn't know if Story Expo was happening again, so I was like, well, let me see if there's anything else I can go check out and such. And then I saw that they were doing it. It was funny because it was April, which means it could have already happened in March. And I was like, April? Like, oh.
But if it did...
Or was it? No, you know what? It was February because they changed the date in January when it was originally going to be in March. Because I see the update. In February is when they told me, oh yeah, you're good to go for two admissions. And I'm like, all right. And I think I had sent out to them something, I reached out to you, and I'm like, well, apparently I still have this
exactly.
thing.
You did, yeah.
I was like, I know you got a lot going on in your life, but just,
Yeah. And what happened was, I was keeping my eye on it, and I'm like, okay, then it slipped by me, and you're like, oh, by the way, we think Story Expo happened.
Well, here's the thing. I wanted to make sure that they actually were going to make good on it before I was like, hey, Juan, drop everything you're doing. And I'm like, man, I'm so glad I didn't do that.
Well, I'm at the website right now, and it's advertising L.A. Story Expo for September 16th and 18th, 2022, and it's got like there's Joe Esterhaus.
Yeah. Here's the other thing.
Here's Robert McKee.
Here's the other thing that also was not very encouraging.
Yeah.
So the keynote speaker they had was Robert McKee.
Yeah.
This wasn't exclusively for Story Expo.
Wait, are you serious?
No.
Wait, whoa. So he just have a video of him talking, and they're saying he's exclusive to Story Expo keynote speaker?
Yeah,
is that what they did?
Okay, here's... I'm trying to remember what it was that we were watching, where it was somebody in the booth. Oh, it was John Tesh. Anne laughed.
What? John Tesh? What?
Anne laughed about this because it was John Tesh doing his nationwide thing, but like doing intros that were more regionally like specific.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's like, my listeners in New York, and he's like, all right, what's the next cart?
Yeah,
my listeners in L.A.
Yep.
And I was just like, oh no, it was like one of those things where he probably had some kind of like intro that might have said something because somebody mentioned it on Reddit.
Okay.
They're like the Robert McKee thing was fucking bullshit. I was like, I don't even think he knew what who he was addressing. I was like, it could have been like a bunch of like college students.
Man, he didn't even look like Nicolas Cage. Oh no, it wasn't Nicolas Cage. What is it? Who Brian Cox. Brian Cox. My bad. Dropped that one.
I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, if you go to Robert McKee's seminar, it's freaking expensive.
It is, dude. Yeah. I haven't gone to any of them, but
I haven't
I've
either.
seen the price
but,
tag.
I mean, they are like, it's a multi-day thing.
Yeah.
And
it's a brainwashing course.
It's.
Do you remember the beginning of Ladybugs?
Yes.
Remember
you came here, you're losers.
That's what it was. That's what I imagined. It's like 2 days of him berating you. Like, what is this shit? You're a loser.
It could be like Brian Cox doing his things. Like, you came in here, you're fucking assholes. You're still fucking assholes.
Oh man.
But I mean, the biggest reason why I thought this would be kind of cool if we both could have did it. I mean, this is pre-baby,
Yes, okay.
Yes. I was still working in my trade job.
Yes.
It was pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
Even though I was trying to leave my job.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about this. I can't even remember what her name was. She actually worked on one of my projects in school. But she used to always tell me about going to these workshops and these seminars. And I've told you the story about how she said to me, you really need to know how to pitch your stuff.
Yes.
And in my head...
else you're not really a writer, right?
Yeah,
That's what did she say that? I thought it was a guy who said it, the way he said it. Yeah.
In my head, I was like, okay, slow down a little bit. Because you might be able to know how to pitch something.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you came up with a good idea.
That's true.
I mean, the other word for that is, I mean, if you're good at bullshitting, then hey, you can get far.
Yes, you can.
But I don't know. Is it insulting to say that to somebody? Like, that you might have come up with something, but if you don't know how to sell it, then it's worthless? I don't know. It was insulting to me.
I guess the way she said it, I suppose, right? I mean, in a weird roundabout way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, it's like how do you depend on people perceiving what you think is innate value? in other words. And unless, I mean, I guess it defaults back to like knowing who your friends are, who your network is, and then them going like, hey, this can actually work, and then there's a vibe that's built, and then it almost feels like some things sell themselves almost, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you're doing the grind, then you ever seen Sweet Smell of Success?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh God, that movie, man. It's like you're the God, help me out here, Tony
Curtis.
It's like you're Tony Curtis in that movie. Like it's like really, you're not even remotely close to Burt Lancaster, because then you're just, God, that's like such a great movie, Sean, man. Like that part where when he uses the insults that somebody insulted him with to sell himself. Yeah, I mean, come on. It's like you almost have to, squander and pander and to an extent to sort of get your name around. Maybe. I mean, I'm not saying that's the to-do tactic. But I have to tell you, I mean, I read this biography of Walt Disney years ago, and during World War II, he just came out right. This is Walt Disney now, so at that point, he's already made Snow White. He's already got an Academy Award, I believe. So he's an institution at this point. And then what he would say was like, I'm pretty much prostituting myself to the U.S. government, like to all these war agencies and contractors. Those are apparently he said that. And that was not just because of being patriotic or wartime propaganda or whatever. It's just because I think his brother Roy was like, no, we need money. Basically, no banks will give us more money. We basically need money. And he goes, well, shit, all right. And then I guess his fallout from doing that's an interesting story, right? His fallout of doing that so much was that he got into trains, and then it's when he got into his own world, as it were. Because then from his passion for trains and building this miniature train set around his property, I don't know if it was in Burbank or whatever. Like I don't know if it was the animation studios, right? But his house, right? He would build these not model train kits, but it's like larger size trains that you can ride around in. Like him and his daughters or whatever, they would ride around it, and he'd invite people over to ride around these trains. And then from there, he progressively had the idea like, hey, I can build a whole amusement park like this, and then enter the Imagineers. So again, I mean, not to go off on a tangent, but and I guess I did, but I guess it depends on who you are and where you are, and if that would get you under, if that kind of I don't know, potential backhanded insult can get under your skin. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I wasn't. It was insulting at the time because I was thinking about the fact that it was like I spent all this time and all these hours doing all this other work. And I was like, and just because I'm having a hard time trying to break it down into a sales pitch, you're telling me that, well, it was, if you can't figure out how to break it down into the sales pitch, why'd you bother? Right. And I was like,
yeah, right.
The fact of the matter is, and I have me, I have a tendency to always, look back on people we went to school with and say, you untalented hack, how could you tell me these things?
Sure.
She was a very nice young lady, but the fact of the matter is she was trying to tell me that I had to spend thousands of dollars to fly to Los Angeles and go to the same seminars that she went to learn how to pitch. And the thing is, she wasn't wrong, but
no, I'd agree, but
could not afford to do that.
Right.
Because, it was almost kind of the weird thing. It was like, well, you're spending all this money to learn how to, pitch, but you're not figuring out how to come up with something to create or to even steal it from somebody. But she wasn't wrong, and that's why I was like, all right, you know what? I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I feel like I need to figure out a way to do something. Even if I fail at it at this point, I have to figure out a way to kind of put myself out there. Yeah. And now that even in that time, I went and I had a sales job, which I wasn't awful at. I just happened to have been in a bad situation.
Yeah.
Unless you ask my boss would be like, "Yeah, that guy was not a salesman." I'd be like, "Hey, man, it's a little hard to start a sales business, during a pandemic when nobody answers their phone."
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
But also, constantly talking to me about politics was making me really uncomfortable.
Oh, it's grating. Yeah. No matter, which quote unquote side, it's just, it becomes very like burdensome and cumbersome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a weight.
Yeah. Anyway, though, not to like rag on my old boss, but I don't know why you trying to tell me that like, he brought up something to me one time where it was like, he was trying to get me to agree that women need to, stop complaining about.
Here we go.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. Like it was.
Yeah, stop complaining. Lord, all right.
He's like, gotta remember. Like, I don't know why everybody wants change. We go back to the way that things were. It was good. Like, yeah, okay. It was good for people that look like you, maybe.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah, it was good.
Anyway,
I don't know.
But that was my whole thing. The reason why I wanted to do Story Expo was that I wanted to make a try at something, and
Well, it's not over yet, Sean. I mean,
know
this might be like. I mean, now the pool might be a little bit tainted, but I mean, you're already dealing with a corrupt business anyway. I think the more the miracle is that anybody can from this is that anybody can sustain themselves from whatever this is or that this has been going on for such a long time, this movie industry or business or whatever.
Yeah. Well, hey, I did come up with a pitch. As bad as it is, here's my pitch for Token Freedom.
Okay, here you go.
David Mamet's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Oh God. Yes. You kidding me? It's great.
Logline would get way too complicated for me. I always hated doing the log lines. It was like, a man did this and blah 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 da 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 da.
I think for me, like when it comes to having pitches and summaries, because for me it's like first understanding what I have. Because I could write on, and then I'd feel like I get to a point where like, okay, this is the story, right? And I'll have this this draft in front of me, and then I'll put it away for a bit, come back to it, reread it, unbiased, and then have a closer sense of what it's about, and I chip away at it, remove things, reposition things. Remove more things, reposition more things, then get to the end, and then do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again, until I start getting it, I guess, concretized, if you pardon the expression, in my mind. And it's like, okay, then I know what it is this is. And then I can start becoming more fluent with it. And then at the end of not the end of the day, but hopefully at the end of the process, I'll be able to be like, okay, this is what this is about. One line, done.
Yeah.
And then I don't have to revisit it anymore. I always wondered if I ever get more with screenwriting and I get into it or into the quote unquote industry or business. I love how the way you put it. It's like when you use that word, it's like a party that you're not invited to. I agree. Right. I totally, yeah. You said, remember you said that? Like when you use the word industry, it feels like you're invited to it. It is a party that you're not invited to. Like, yeah, you're pretty much right. And if I'm in it, right? If they ever ask me like, "Hey, can you do rewrites?" I'm like, I don't know if I can.
Well, like it's weird. Like I think I told you I used to do a lot of rewriting as I wrote.
Yeah.
So usually my first draft is really kind of like my 10th draft.
Yeah, I was the same way. But from my end, it's more like, okay, if I have something that I feel like is a final draft, and I can't, for me, it's at the point of not even, it's a point of self-destructing me, not even the work. And somebody would come to me and be like, hey, can you actually do rewrites on this? I'd say, No, I don't think I can. I'm kind of done with it. Find somebody else. Unless unless the approach is like really enticing, which is like, okay, what about this? And I'm like,
well,
that's a bad idea.
Let me give you an example. Like I'm changing the beginning of my one script right now because what happened was there was this TV movie on HBO called Conspiracy. It was about when it has Kenneth Branagh and Stanley Tucci. It's about when the group of men during the Nazis, they got together to, I guess, to plan the final solution.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know if it was a stage play, but it plays out like that.
Yeah.
And the thing is that there are a lot of men sitting around a table. So you kind of need to at least see all these people at some point, even if it's just briefly. They need to be introduced one at a time. Even if you introduce them by somebody saying something verbally about them as they show up at this meeting. And I was like, well, that seems like an interesting thing to do to at least, get people, to see who all these people are. Except my problem is, and I'm introducing all these guys while a lot of the guys are like getting food, like there's almost like craft services, and I'm like, why are these guys talking about fucking bagels and danishes, like, and I'm like, all right, I need to get away from that, so I needed to figure out some other like. Even if it's just an inspiration, I need to find another introduction from a movie to give me a jumping off point. So I've been rewriting just that opening scene. And I think it might be the only scene that I totally rewrite. That's it. Because everything else kind of happens very much like within spaces with people yelling at each other.
It unfolds.
And then it just is off to the races.
But you know what happens to me, Sean? I feel like I can't go back and I can't go back and have a concept of what it is that I want to put into words exactly until after everything's done. Like the rest of the draft unfolds, and then I can go back and like, okay, this is kind of what I this is kind of what I meant, but something that's missing, and then having that missing piece, and then knowing what comes after, and then you can render it into words, and you can just pop it in there, and then it kind of flows from there.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that this is what you should do, of course, but it's. I mean, I have no idea. Like, that's what's the struggle when it comes to you talking about this, because and I don't, so I have to just imagine and go okay. And then try to remember what it is that you talked about in previous shows, and then I'm like, okay, this is what he told me then, and then so I have an incredibly rough idea, very vague idea of what this is.
Well, yeah, okay. I mean, but
freedom.
When I bring it up, is like there are certain guidelines to ways that I always like to unfold stories, and some of it is sometimes your protagonist doesn't show up until they're initiated into the story, as opposed to you just right off the bat, this is your protagonist.
Right.
Like, just take my word for it. This is your protagonist.
Like in Tenet.
Yeah.
that was just, yes, that's exactly the reaction I wanted.
This is your protagonist. We swear his name is actually protagonist.
I'm happy that made you laugh, because I was like, okay, this better make him laugh, because if it doesn't, then I don't really know him.
I mean, that does work in certain situations, but it's just
it does. I think it even worked in that film a little bit, as pretentious as it may be. But it's for me, I dug it. I'm like, you know what? All right, whatever. And I love that movie, man. I haven't watched it.
Oh, we've talked about it. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. I know people aren't fans of Nolan. He's doing Oppenheimer now. Did you hear about this?
I did. And everybody's in it.
Yeah, pretty much everybody's in it.
Even if you don't want to be, you are in Oppenheimer.
I would love. Yeah. Well. Cillian Murphy, he's Robert Oppenheimer.
Yeah, that's
not bad.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Batman flies the bomb into Hiroshima. Or you can intercut, not to be an asshole about it, because come on, it's Hiroshima, but I mean, you can intercut that with the last 30 minutes of Pearl Harbor.
Oh,
what did you think of that movie when that came out?
What, Pearl Harbor?
Yeah.
I actually have a Pearl Harbor story.
Oh, please! Oh, I love your movie stories. Yeah.
When I went to go see, I think it was Unbreakable. There was a teaser for Pearl Harbor.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about. I went to go see Unbreakable around the same time. Yep.
And it was the music from The Thin Red Line.
Really?
So it's the Hans Zimmer music from Thin Red Line, and there's some kind of some nice looking imagery, which I didn't know that Michael Bay had directed.
You mean the scene with the baseball, the baseball kid?
Yeah, the baseball
the
kids.
Planes.
The kamikaze pilots.
Yeah, the kamikaze
putting
pilots.
What the hell are those? The bandanas in their heads.
The bandanas, yeah.
I think I have a name for them.
I forgot what they were.
Yeah.
If that's the case, yeah.
And the dropping back shot of a dozen planes, 2 dozen planes, 3 dozen, and I was just like, "Ooh, that's really cool looking."
Yeah.
And I was just like, "So Michael Bay film." I went, fuck. I was like, dude, man. For a second there, I thought Terrence Malick made a Pearl Harbor film.
That reminds me. I don't know if I haven't watched anything really in a long time, and I can't help but think. Do you remember when John Landis would use other directors as in bit parts for his movies?
Well, he always did.
Yeah, he always did that, right?
If the biggest cameo movie he has, I think, is actually Spies Like Us, because there is
Frank Oz,
yeah, Terry Gilliam,
yes,
Joel Cohen.
Where was he? Was he in the doctor scene?
The drive-in. When the two government guys go to the drive-in. Him and there's some other director standing next to him, and for the life of me, I want to say that it's Sam Raimi.
No, really?
That would almost make sense.
Yeah.
What's his face is also in it.
Ted Raimi?
No,
Bruce, Ted Raimi. The Raimi brothers in there.
Actually, you know what? I think Costas Gravis is in that movie too.
Really? I didn't even know that.
And let's see, who else is in it? Frank Oz.
Frank Oz. Well, that great scene when they're doing the test and Chevy Chase is cheating.
See, I watched that clip on YouTube.
Yeah.
And Ian is like, "Could you stop watching this?" Because when he says to Frank Oz, he's like, what does he say? He's there's $100, and he's like, "Are you
bribing me?"
Yes. Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Sit down.
Down. Do you remember that later on in that scene where Chase is trying to entice Dan Aykroyd to help him, and he's shaking his head, and Oz is obviously watching this, and he's also shaking his head. He's like, "Please don't do it."
And he's being so he's like,
he's blatant about it. I got this DVD. My dad picked it up a long time ago of Spies Like Us that has the worst transfer. It's like the studio didn't even bother trying to clean it up or even digitize it properly. I remember watching it, I was like, wow, this looks bad. Considering the amount of effort in this that was put into this movie, did you ever hear Landis talk about how when Paul McCartney called him about the song,
No.
Oh, this is funny. So he's like sitting around his office or whatever, right? And I forgot where I saw this, but he was sitting around the office, and then his secretary's like, Paul McCartney's on the line. He goes, "What are you talking about? Paul McCartney's on the line." And he goes, "Yeah, he took the call, and Paul McCartney wanted to do a song for Spies Like Us," and then Landis goes, "What am I going to say? No." Sorry.
All right, so I've got. All right, so Costas Gravitz is in the movie.
He is. Huh?
Let's see. Also, Larry Cohen.
Okay.
Who made like some Larry Cohen movies.
Yeah,
I can't think of it. Michael Apted, who did the 7-Up
yes,
documentaries,
he's
and
wow.
feature films too. And Sam Raimi and Joel Cohen are the drive-in security guys. Also, Ray Harryhausen is in the movie.
No, where is he? Is he in the? I always default to the doctor scene. Was he in the doctor?
He's one of the doctors.
He's one of the doctors.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point I was trying to make was: do any directors do that? There's like, I feel like it's probably in there with the Marvel movies, maybe. I don't know, but will you like have somebody like Landis who who grew up in that world basically? So he'd be like, I mean, I think it's like when you have the balls to be like, hey, Steven Spielberg, can you be the tax guy for the end of Blues Brothers? And you see like the scrawny Steven Spielberg eating his sandwich. You know what I mean? He's like, sure, right. And do you know if anybody does that now? Like just cast other directors?
I don't think so.
Damn.
It's so odd because like it almost became like an ongoing joke with Landis because he had Robert Wise in The Stupids. Now I've never seen The Stupids, but I know Robert Wise is in it. And then there's the great cameo of George Lucas in Beverly Hills Cop 3.
I haven't seen that, and I've heard about that cameo, but I've never seen it. Never seen the movie.
Axel Foley cuts in line at a ride at whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah.
Wonderworld. And
Wonderworld.
and there's Lucas wearing like a sweater, and he just goes, "Hey." And Murphy's like, "Sorry, security," and he goes, "Let's go."
Dude, I didn't know that Landis directed Beverly Hills Cop 3. He directed Beverly Hills Cop 3?
He did.
It's an Eddie Murphy production on top. Wow.
Yeah. That was Eddie Murphy's way of trying to make amends with
Landis.
Because they'd had a falling out with
Coming to America, was it?
Coming to America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, oh man. Oh, that makes it. I don't know. That makes it even that makes me more. Oh God, what am I saying here? Like, I feel a little bit of dread thinking about that now. If I ever want to watch that movie, because it's like knowing like the history a little bit. I guess a little bit, right? Like offhand, what that was like seeing Trading Places, right?
Yeah.
And then Coming to America, and then. If I ever get around to watching Beverly Hills Cop 3, and then knowing that, like 20 years later, Coming to America is coming, and, Landis probably has, like, nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that sucks. But, yeah, I mean, there's a lost, the reason I bring this up is because I feel like there was a lot less, like, kind of, like, wit in films now, right? It's almost very dry, or very, like, maybe... I guess inflatedly dramatic, where it's like you watch these Landis movies, and that's not strictly Landis, but I mean he's a good example where you watch something of his, like say from the 80s, let's say like during the Golden Landis period, right? And if you know who's who, and if you know, it's like it rewards you, like you recognize Ray Harryhausen, don't you? Well, here he is, and you can have like one strong guffaw moment, and then even Spielberg is one example. Oz just keeps coming up. Yeah. He was in Trading Places. He was like was it the desk sergeant in Trading Places?
What is this PCP or
Angel Dust?
Angel Dust. You know what this does to kids?
To the kids. Oh my God. Oh man, but that's why is that? I almost feel like somebody like Spielberg can do it, or Spielberg maybe he could be too reverential. He'd be like, no, that was Landis' thing. I'm not doing that, right? Not that apparently he gets along with Landis now. I don't know how that is, but it's those guys from that era who, not to say they didn't get away with it, but they introduced that element into the this sound hoity-toity here, but like the vocabulary of movies. You know, like you can cast these other people who you wouldn't never like who you would never otherwise see, right? And then it's kind of like, I mean, think of it this way: it's like if you wanted to make, you know, David Mamet's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, right? And again, I don't know your screenplay, obviously, right? But if you wanted to throw like, you know, like if oh my God, if Frank Capra was still alive and you were making, you know, David Mamet's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, right? You would find a way to get him in there, Frank Capra, somehow, somewhere. People wouldn't. I mean, I don't know about your script, obviously, but if you were thinking about in the context, you'd be like, you'd put him in there because it's like not even. It almost feels like a given, right? It's like you don't even know who, like, and I didn't know what Frank Capra looked like until I like looked him up on YouTube. I'm like, oh, that's what he looked like. Shit, I never knew that.
Interesting looking guy, right?
Yeah. And I've started reading his autobiography a long time ago. One of the in the moment I started reading it, have you ever read The Name Above the Title? His autobiography?
No.
You have to. It is one of the best. I mean, I got maybe like about a third of the way through, and it's rollicking. You know, he just has such like enthusiasm. I think he published that back when he was in his 70s or in his 80s. And I got a copy of it from the library, and it was hard to find too, right? And it was, I think, one of the original like first editions of that book. And you'll see some of the commendations or some of the praise of it, and sure enough, one of the first people to talk about the book is John Ford, and he's like, this is one of the best books on filmmaking ever, something like that, right? And Sean, I'm not exaggerating. You read like the first opening pages or whatever, and the guy has more gumption than any film student today. Like I swear, like maybe even us, you know, it's like not that we're up there or whatever, but you read it and it's like there's such enthusiasm. Like he published this when he was in his 80s, bro, like 70s and 80s, and you'll see like I almost get like I almost feel like electric talking about it, because he'll say like, and this is what he says. He's like, one man, one film. That's how it is. That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Like it's not supposed to be run by a committee. If it's supposed to be run by a committee, it would have been totally different. And you won't get nothing done. But it's supposed to be one man, one film. That's it. I mean, it's like I almost feel like I'm happy that I'm going back, and you always think like you'll get to a point in your knowledge base or whatever, right? But I'm like, it occurred to me like, you know what? I really should find these people's autobiographies. I'm reading other autobiographies about other people, right? Like politicians and things like that, historical figures. I love films. I should read the biographies of these people who, you know, these directors who've gone through this shit, and I want to hear their stories, right? So I'm thinking, okay, one of the ones that I was always curious about was Frank Capra, and got around to reading, like, got it to his book a little bit. I think I'm about like maybe a third of the way through. He just made the story of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington in of itself is interesting. Even Lost Horizon, I don't remember which came first, but okay, back up. He had won an Oscar for It Happened One Night, right? Which is a movie, by the way. He kind of like just made, like he had no idea, and Clark Gable was on loan to him from another studio, according to him. Like he showed up to his office, like, "Are you Frank Capra?" And the guy was drunk out of his mind. Can you imagine? Like Clark Gable showing up drunk in the middle of the day? He's like, yeah, I'm here because this other guy asshole, right? I'm loaned out to Harry Cohen, whatever, right? Because Columbia Pictures. So and the way it's so funny because when Capra talks about Harry Cohen, it's like he had like this begrudging love-hate relationship with Capra. He's like, "What do you mean you need more money? Like Harry, I give you more money or I walk." And he goes, all right, I'll see what I can do, right? This is Harry Cohen, like the one of the like belligerent studio kings of Hollywood, and then because he realized that Capra, who came from like, oh God, dude, you have to read this book. Like the way he opens the book, and I know I'm jumping around a lot, but that's what happens when I get excited, right? the very beginning of the book talks about like how he was like he grew up part of a peasant family in like Sicily or Italy or whatever. His brother had this incredible like transatlantic story. It wasn't even a transatlantic. He like went like to South America or Australia or whatever, and ended up in LA. And he they didn't know what happened to the poor guy. He sends a letter all the way back to his hometown in like Sicily or whatever. Nobody can read the letter because they don't know how to read. So they find a guy to read them the letter, and they find out what happened to his brother. Long story short is that his brother says, "Hey, come out to America. I'll pay for all the trip. for all of you. Just come to America. So there's another harrowing chapter of like, him crossing the Atlantic with his family, him, crossing the American continent with his family until they get to LA. And then another chapter begins there. And then what's really interesting is he talked like he wasn't even into like movies. He was just like wanted to learn. He wanted to be like a professor or he went to college. He made a point. It's like, hey, I want to go to college. And his family was like, oh, are you kidding me? You're not going to make any money. You're going to, like, why are you going to do that? You're just going to, just going to waste your life or whatever. Right? He's like, no, I want to do it. I want to do it. So he ends up going to college, ends up being a professor at like this military academy, I think, or something like that. And this is like was this in the 20s? This is pre-World War II, obviously. And then eventually he's like down on his luck. He has no job. He's like, his father has died. He's taking care of his mom. He has no idea what's going on in his life. This is where it gets inspiring to read. And he's like, no, I have to get out there. I have to get out there on my own. And it's almost similar, very similar in a loosey-goosey kind of way to Kurosawa, where he sees an ad in a newspaper for like a film thing. And he has zero clue on making movies or whatever. He's like, oh, this sounds interesting. He goes up. He goes to this production house, and that's overstressing it. It's not really a production place. It's a guy who wants to make a movie, like this actor who wants to make a movie. And Capra goes, and he acts like he knows what he's talking about. And the guy goes, this is like what you were saying earlier about like, bullshitting, right? And the guy goes like, my boy, together we'll make this great movie. And then Capra goes, no, he goes, that very day, as soon as I got hired, I ran to the library and started reading everything I could about filmmaking. Can you believe it? And then he goes to make this movie with this guy. Then he goes out of filmmaking for like maybe like a few months or whatever. And then I don't know how he ends up hooking up with Max Sennett. That's a great story. Like each of these scenes of his life are even like kind of like these chapters are kind of like micro, master classes in a way on screenwriting, because the way he delivers and the way he writes and the way he communicates is just it's. Again, I harken back to when I was reading Dashiell Hammett. It's so clear and lucid that when he talks about like when he sets up a joke within the scene, it has like this very effective punchline, and it's funny. It's like it's not like in a kind of like ha 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 kind of funny way. It's like it's legitimately funny, and overall, I think this book's hilarious. And right when he wins the Oscar for It Happened One Night, which again he had no idea what was even going to happen, no pun intended. Like he just made this movie and he just took off, right? He's like, okay, I can't believe it. I'm respected by my peers. I'm very good at my craft, my industry. And then what happens? He falls into a slump, and he doesn't even know he's in a slump. He just doesn't want to get out of bed, whatever it is, right? And check this out. This is actually kind of like weirdly mystical. He shows up to his house one day, and there's this guy that says, I need to talk to you. And from what I remember, it was this guy who wasn't even really that tall. Capra has no idea who he is. And then he pretty much says, you have to get out of whatever it is you're feeling. Because whatever it is you're going through, it's going to kill you. You have to get out of it. And Capra goes, what are you talking about? I'm fine. You're being belligerent. And the guy goes, no, you're meant for better things. You're meant to help people. Things, something like that. And he pretty much delivers like the 1-2 punch to sort of Capra's like self-esteem and ego, and it wakes him up. And he doesn't know who the guy is. The guy exits his life just as abruptly as he enters it. And as far as I know, I mean, given the where I am in the book, he doesn't even mention that if he ever saw him again. He doesn't know who this guy is. And then from there, he's like, you know what? If I'm going to make movies, I have to do it my way. I can't. I really have to advocate for myself, and I want to make the certain kinds of pictures that I want to see, basically, right? Mm. And that's where I think Mr. Smith Goes to Washington came from. That's where all the Capra movies come from. Okay. Basically, from that one very kind of incredible moment. Which it's like that was when I read that I was like, holy shit! I can't believe something like that happened. Even he admitted it. He's like, I can't believe this happened either. It's just one of those. It just happened. And his wife was like, who was that? And he goes, I have no idea who that was. He just showed up and started just took it's like when you say it's like, oh yeah, you get your ass kicked. That's basically what that guy did, because Capra was he wasn't even diagnosed with something. He was just with like the doctors he went to go see. I mean, this was like sort of a psychosomatic thing. Like he was sick, but he had no idea what he had. And maybe it was like the soul sickness, I don't know, but this guy shows up, the stranger shows up, and kind of like, you know, shakes him out of his funk, you know, which I guess in Hollywood, I mean, given what we know about Hollywood, just, you know, offhand, can be like, I mean, Kubrick actually put it very well. He said, like, you know, Hollywood is toxic, but in a way that, you know, the person you might be talking to secretly wants you to fail. I remember, like, I think I read that to Kubrick. Yeah, Kubrick, that's why he moved to England. He said, like, something to the effect of, yeah, Hollywood is the kind of place where you can have a conversation with somebody, but in the back of their mind, they really want you to fail. And that's why he's like, I can't do this. I gotta get out of here. But you should really read The Name Above the Title. It's really good. It's really good. It should be required reading for anybody who wants to make films, honestly. And I don't mean to sound like, you know, like high and mighty about it. But, you know, it's like Sean, within the first few pages, you get the sense of this guy's passion, like immediately. It's not like, well, I like movies and I want to make movies. No, it's also like, okay, guys, like, this is what I want to do. I make films. You know what I mean? It's great.
Yeah, I'll have to give it a look.
Yeah, please do. Please do. I mean, I wish I had a copy I can send out to you, but I got it on loan from the library still. I'll eventually get around to reading it. Try to use, like, interlibrary loan or something. I mean, that's... Yeah. I try to tell people that as often as I can. It's like, hey, especially people around here, it's like, hey, if you're paying your taxes, you're paying for your library, and libraries are sadly underused resource. Sadly. So I almost expect that whenever I go to a library... Like, I almost expect it to be, like, you know, full of people. So I'm like, shit, I have to be on a line to get things. It's like, no, it never happens. I don't know. It's just, if people only knew, you know, the things that, you know, that we're paying for that, you know, other countries don't even have a glimmer of seeing because they're not attuned that way. They don't have the history to that. Yeah. You know? So... Anyway,
I use my library.
I know. I think I left a comment on one of your videos once saying, you guys have to use our libraries. Yeah, you're paying your taxes for it. You're, like, spending money on it that you don't even know. Like, all these libraries are going to be... that's the one, probably, the one, you know, I guess, public political cause that I'm passionate about is libraries. Because, I mean, anybody can go into it. Anybody. And you can learn anything you want. To an extent, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's just it's by definition that you can just, I mean, it's what makes it great. That makes this, you know, I guess this country, but this world, this idea of what this is great anyway.
Yeah.
You know? Anyway, I didn't want to, you know, go on and on about, like, Camper or whatever, but again, I mean, I've been dying to tell you about this book because it's I've read my fair share of, like, of, you know, movie books and you know, film biographies, right? And there's a lot of good stuff out there. But in regards to, like, you know, which is some of the best or the better ones, Frank Capra's book, yeah, certainly up there. It's just because of his sheer verve, his intellect, his talent, and his enthusiasm. For me, it blows out the other ones that I've read so far out of the water. And I have, like, sitting around here somewhere, I have Milos Forman's autobiography, Turnaround, which reminded me of the thing that you wrote and starred in. Called Turnaround, and I'm like, oh shit, I should read that. And
the doomed turnaround.
Yeah, the doomed turnaround, and yeah. So I mean, you gotta do yourself a favor and read some of this stuff because I don't know if you're hesitant, like you're like, oh well, I don't want to, you know, pollute myself with whatever. I want to have my own ideas or whatever. I get that, right? But there's a kind of like a great lesson when you read, like, I guess, like, I know any book, but especially, like, you know, these director film books, because they'll drop these gems on you that you, like, you know, that are totally, like, you don't even expect them. Like, Capra talks about, there's a scene where I think he talks about how he was in a movie theater with his girlfriend or his wife or whatever, and what had happened was, he was called in by Harry Cohn or whatever to go replace a director who was shooting something, you know, down the California coast or whatever. And Capra goes, "Are you kidding me? I don't have no time." And da 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 da. So whatever. I'm saying that a lot, but Capra goes. He gets the lay of the land. He becomes general really quickly, and he outlines a scenario where he's like, "Well, there's your main star, pretty much doesn't want anything to do with the picture," and he's listening. He's listening to, like, you know, the story, and he goes, "Okay, this is what you do. Give me a stick of gum, and tell him to meet me in the hotel room, like, within 5 minutes, and then call me or whatever it is, right?" Goes up to meet him, sees a stick of gum, is just giving like here's what he goes. This is how I kind of want you to play the character. I don't remember this correctly, but forgive me. I'm trying to give you the sense of it.
Yeah. Okay.
And he says, here, chew this gum a certain way. Now give me a certain attitude. And he nailed it. And he's like, okay, this is the character. And he was like, oh, I can totally do this. Fine, let's do it. And that's how they get the production like off and running. And it was like smooth sailing from there because he won the guy's respect.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the it's the I don't know, it's the kind of stories that they may be tall tales, but they're really fun, you know? Yeah. But anyway,
I'm gonna give that a look at.
Yeah,
it's predominantly a lot of the stories that I've ever, because I think you know this. I'm not like a huge reader, but what tends to be the things that I read would be true crime or
yes.
like, oh shit, this movie was a disaster.
Speaking of which, there's a new Michael Cimino book coming out about Heaven's Gate.
Oh.
Yeah. What is it called? I'm looking it up. Yeah. It's just, I read this stuff, and this is the stuff I'm getting for free at the library, and I'm like, dude, this should have been required reading. They should have been part of the curriculum.
Yeah.
Of what we went through, And let's see, what's it called? This is called Cimino, The Deer Hunter, Heaven's Gate, and the Price of a Vision. And I'm just looking this up on Amazon really quick. And it's already out. Tarantino has a nonfiction book coming out. Did you hear about this?
No.
Yeah, it's called, I think, I'll look it up in a second. Wait a minute, where is it? Oh, gosh. Where is it? I saw it. Hold on. I had it here. I think it's called Cinema something or other because it's Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino book. Hold on. It is Cinema Speculation. And there's a picture of Steve McQueen, and I don't know who that is. I know it's probably a director I should know, but I don't know who it is. I don't know who this is. I'll send this to you later, I suppose. But anyway, yeah. Got caught off in the whole Frank Capra tangent there, and I apologize, but it's you know what? It's one of those things I've always meant to bring it up in one of our talks or one of our shows or whatever, because I feel like you would appreciate it.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's just that it's so insultingly, open out there that you almost feel like a fool when you read something like this, because this is just a book that, I mean, who knows the stuff that we don't even know about that's openly published by like these really named people that can we cheat ourselves a little bit. Like when you read stuff like this, it almost feels like you're almost living vicariously through these people, and then you're able to get a glimpse of what I guess the world is like, but something that can help you. I mean, I know this is probably remedial, but it really is priceless. I think anyway.
Yeah.
Mm. You should be a big reader. I think you'd be good at it. You'd be a good big reader.
You know what my thing is? It's not
what?
That it's the physical part of it. I love stories, and I love, like, I have, this is kind of an interesting little fact about me. Mostly because of my job. I used to listen to a lot of, audio books.
Sure.
And I don't know what the exact number is, but I could probably tell you that I have probably physically read less than 20 books.
Uh-huh.
But I have probably listened to somewhere between 30 or 40 audiobooks.
Yeah.
All in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Like some of them are, would be, quick reads, and some of them are not. I mean, I do a lot of driving, so sometimes I listen, do things like Lonesome Dove.
Oh shit! I've been wanting to read that too, actually. That and I heard a thing about Blood Meridian, Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian recently. That I'm like, oh shit, I have to get into that too. I always get my wires crossed between Larry McMurdy and Cormac McCarthy. I don't know. It's just one of those things.
I would say that McCarty is much darker.
yes. Yes. He wouldn't write All the Pretty Horses.
No. And also, I would say that McMurtry also knows how to make sure that you're reading dialogue and using things like quotes or line breaks or correct grammar for, that your English teacher wouldn't put red marks all over.
Exactly.
Because Cormac is, just, gung-ho with all that.
Yeah.
So, have you ever see that joke I had with the?
What?
It was the Land Before Time, and it just says, Cormac McCarthy's The Road.
Yes, I think I saw that. How many of those did they make? Like, I've never seen they made like 10 of those movies.
Land Before Time?
Yeah.
14.
How do you know this?
Because I just watched a thing about Don Bluth.
Oh, there you go.
And they talked about how all of the sequels to The Land Before Time, neither Bluth or Spielberg have any involvement with at all. Yeah. So.
Huh. How did that happen?
Universal seemed to have all of the property on that. Because I think it wasn't until after The Land Before Time that that amblemation actually became a thing. And I guess they would have some kind of studio piece of it.
Yeah, right. Man.
Yeah, that's why I know how many there are. I used to make a joke that they've made so many Land Before Time movies that the last one took place in 1972.
And do they have like? I know I've never actually seen this, but do you remember? Oh God, what was that Japanese film? In the Realm of the Senses. Oh, right.
I've seen that.
Yeah, I haven't. But isn't there like after the climax of that movie that there's a caption that comes up like this happened in 1965 or something like that?
Oh, that I don't remember.
It was something like that. It was the way it was presented. I heard a guy telling me this once, right? Like he was telling me all about In the Realm of the Senses. Like, man, you ever seen the Realm of the Senses? I'm like, no, what is that?
You're like,
I'll tell you exactly. So he's telling me this, and then he's like, at the very end, I don't know if this is actually what happened, but he's like, at the very end, it's like you think this movie takes place in the 1870s or something, but then it says this happened in 1965. I'm like, holy shit. Yeah,
it's like The Village, man. You went over the wall and you went, where are we?
And I imagine the last Land Before Time. It's like they cross through the valley and they end up in San Francisco. Yeah. It's like the birds. It's like the original Hitchcock ending of the birds. Oh man. Yeah. I
was watching it with my daughters and Ashling's like, this movie's sad.
Do you? I'm gonna ask you a dad question here. Like, do you when you're going to show them something that you know is going to be like potentially emotionally devastating, do you think twice about showing them shit, or do you be like, they can handle it? They could watch it.
Well,
How do you handle that?
All right, we watched E.T. the other day. And I saw E.T. when I was 5.
Yeah.
Because I was always curious. I was like, I remember seeing E.T. in the theater, but it came out in 82. It's because they re-released it in 1984.
You mentioned that, yeah.
So I was 5. Marguerite is 5. So I was like, they should be able to watch this. And she's like, oh no, what's happening to him? What's he doing? Oh, it's sad. Is he dying?
Oh my God.
I'm like, Marguerite, shut the fuck up and watch the
movie. Sean Nolan, Dad of the Year.
But you know what? We kind of talk them through things. I think it's kind of a way of to prepare them for the fact that it's a movie, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You may find yourself getting emotionally attached to things, and that's fine. But also do remember that this is a movie you're watching. I heard some. Who was it? Oh, it was the guy who does the horror movies, Joe Lynch. I listen to his podcast sometimes with Adam Green, the guy who did the Hatchet films.
Okay.
Joe Lynch. Wait, was it Joe? Yeah, Joe Lynch. His mother took him to see Dawn of the Dead when he was 2.
Oh my God.
Or 3 years old or something. He was young. And what happened was his mother used to get him Fangoria magazines. And she was very much into
grooming him.
Well, almost kind of explaining to him these are movies and that's makeup and these people do a lot of work to make it look like this. And it's like you'd think oh my God, what a fucking horrible mom. But maybe she shouldn't have taken me to see Dawn of the Dead when I was so young. But at the same time, she was kind of explaining to me that it's it's make believe. But it's there for entertainment, and you kind of appreciate it a little more. And it didn't ruin me. I didn't become a psychopath. But I mean,
that we know of.
I mean, the Ashling the other day just asked me, "Oh, when am I going to be old enough to watch Alien?"
Oh,
because she's like, because I already know what a xenomorph is.
True that.
And I'm like, you're too young, okay? And I was like, listen, there's violence and there's, things that people talk about in the movie that you're not going to understand.
Exactly.
So it's going to go over your head and you're just going to be like, I don't know what's going on.
Precisely, yeah.
I was like,
that's the one benchmark I think I have too.
Yeah, I was like, I'm doing you a favor. When you're old enough to understand it, I'll let you watch it.
Good point. Yeah.
Unlike, taking an 8-year-old to go see Full Metal Jacket. That would be me.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
for me personally, I remember it was my parents had extreme hesitation about letting me watch The Exorcist at a very young age. And I don't know how old I was when I eventually watched it. I think it was maybe on TNT or something one night. Or maybe it was like a Monster Vision with Joe Bob Briggs or something. and they cut out all the quote unquote good stuff, right? Because it's a cable edited thing. But at the same time, The Exorcist, no pun intended, but it exercises this intense knowledge of the mood it has to have. That's the thing that Friedkin does. For that movie especially, he was so keen on that shit. I don't know if it was just because of the William Peter Blatty, how they had that simpatico relationship.
Yeah.
Where it's okay, this doesn't start off exactly in Europe. We're gonna go to Iran or Iraq or whatever. And we'll start there to set up the primordial elements of it, right? This is an old story, and then we'll go to Georgetown. right?
Yeah.
And there is that, the tubular bells, and that's like that mood, that sense of autumn and the sense of the fall. So you get that, that chill in your body when you're watching that movie.
Oh yeah.
And then it just seems like something that's incredibly unsettling is happening. And I didn't even watch the new cut that they released fairly recently, right? And I didn't watch that. At least I don't remember watching it because the first one's so good.
I think they're. I mean, you talking about the one that like, not
the Linda Blair
not,
Spider.
not the not the version you've never seen, but the director's version of the version you've never seen. Is that the one you're talking about? Oh my God!
You just blew my mind. I don't know.
Okay. Here's the thing. Freaking went a little George Lucas on some of his movies. Not many of them, but with the French Connection, he changed the color timing because when he saw Inside Llewyn Davis, he said, "Holy shit, that's what New York is supposed to look like." So he changed the color timing on the movie. You have to have like the new Blu-ray to even notice it, and it's not a lot different, but it's slightly different.
Yeah, I have both I had that Blu-ray and the regular Blu-ray of that film, and it's so funny because I remember watching the behind the scenes they did a little documentary or promo of him talking about how he wanted French Connection to look like, and he made everything more pastel-y in regards to France, I guess, and in New York, but I heard that the DP Orrin Roisman, he was pissed. He's like, how can you fucking do that?
And he kind of did something like that with The Exorcist, where certain things were modified, and he made like the slightest of like frame edits. And it's kind of like one of those like, well, if you want to be a completist, you can see it, but you can also just say, nah, I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm more of that latter camp, actually, because the first one is the first one was so fucking good. It's just everything. I almost feel like everything after that was kind of like, well, how much more money can we make? I mean, not to be cynical about it, but like, he even talks about it in his book where him and Peter Blatty are like, oh, well, we could put in those other deleted scenes. It's like, oh yeah, I guess we can't we? And they did. So
there is some stuff from the whatever the hell we're gonna call it. We'll just call it the freaking cut. Some of that stuff it's kind of neat. But what was the somebody who also did that? Michael Mann did that with Heat. He didn't really change the film, but he changed a little bit of the look of the film. And most everybody is in agreement that looks amazing.
Yeah. He did this recently with Heat?
Heat, yeah. I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a little more.
I didn't hear about this. I should check this out. I've never actually seen that movie. I've seen
Heat?
the clips of him. Yeah, I never seen Heat.
It's a very hot movie.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening to ShJuawnCast number 6. We hope you enjoy. No, but really, I heard that. Well, there's a new 4K Blu-ray apparently coming out of pretty soon. Yeah. I guess that should sample opportunity for me to pick it up and check out Heat, the very hot movie. I guess I wanted to tell you. So there's this, there's Filmmaker magazine, and I picked one up last year. I don't know why it keeps slipping by me, but I never even finished reading my copy of it. But check this out. They did an entire article. It was a good one too, of the 1980s New York kind of like art scene, but focusing more on the actors and the bit players that became bigger later on, and how Michael Mann was like, "Give me all of them. I want to put them in Miami Vice." Basically, there's a great article outlining like if this was the last summer when I read this, and I haven't really watched Miami Vice like when I was now that I'm older. I probably saw clips of it when I was younger when my parents used to watch it, but but I just found out that G. Gordon Liddy was in Miami Vice. I had no idea.
There's a lot of interesting.
There's a lot of
Yeah, it's it's like how every British person was on like EastEnders or something.
Yeah.
Is it EastEnders? Neighbours? No, Neighbours.
Was it Neighbours? Or there's also Coronation Street.
Yeah.
Is it that one? What was it? Corey Street, something like that?
I know that Australia's got their show, which I think might be Neighbours.
I never heard of that. I don't think I've heard of that. I've heard of Coronation Street. But yeah. So anyway, I read this article and I thought, oh, you would like this. I should just take photos of this and like send them to you. But it was a lengthy piece too, and it was actually there was a deep appreciation of the casting that went into Miami Vice. The way they talk about Miami Vice in that article made it seem like, oh my God, we'd never seen something like this before on TV.
Well, it was. It was very cinematic.
Yeah.
Not that I saw a lot of Miami Vice, but I mean,
me either. Yeah.
It definitely did kind of change what they were doing on TV. With stuff and a lot of it is Scarface. A lot of the look of Miami can be attributed to Scarface.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
she's on fire. Heat. Speaking of which, dude, I gotta tell you, there's a brand new soundtrack edition of Scarface out with all the Giorgio Moroder stuff in it.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's La La Land Records. They just came out this past Tuesday. Actually, I'm eyeing it. I'm thinking about just getting it because it has all the I think it has all the original tracks from the disco tracks from the soundtrack, plus the Giorgio the score, the Giorgio Moroder score.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, oh shit, this almost feels like a must buy to me because I mean, it's so funny because I wasn't into like. Now that I'm getting older, I feel like it's the classic story, right? Where it's like you're getting older, and the music that you heard when you were growing up, you're kind of like, okay, whatever. But then you went back and you listen to it, you're like, oh wow, this is actually, I'm enjoying this. This not that it's the nostalgia or the familiarity. It's kind of like, wow, how did they let this slip by me almost, right, to begin with?
Yeah.
And with with 80s soundtracks especially. Sean, I can tell you when I was growing up, I was not fond of them at all. I was kind of like, what is this? This is kind of like funky. What is this? And then, time went on, and then now everybody loves the 80s.
Well, because you know what it is? I would say the synth soundtracks really kind of put you in an era,
yes, they do,
or a headspace. Yeah. And it's weird because even like the most epic synth scores, like the Never-Ending Story, which is also Giorgio Moroder.
Yes.
To what was it? To Live and Die in L.A.
I know you were going to say that Tangerine Dream, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the Sorcerer.
Speaking Tangerine Dream with Sorcerer, the score they did for The Keep. Have you seen The Keep?
Okay, check this out. All right, so I can't believe you're bringing this up. I've been working through the Repairman Jack series written by the author of The Keep, F. Paul Wilson, who's a Jersey boy, right? He probably lives not far from me. Like maybe he says he lives in Wall, New Jersey, which is about 30-minute drive from where I am. And he wrote The Keep. He's not a fan of the movie. I haven't seen it. But in his books, he makes a point saying, "Wow, whatever. Like, what the hell happened with that movie?" it's kind of like Stephen King in The Shining. I think that's kind of like, what was that?
There's two parts of this. For one thing, I think Michael Mann kind of went a little crazy with the movie, and had to make some decisions. And the other thing is, it's also a truncated version of what Michael Mann wanted the movie to look like. So that's not to say that the full version would have been good.
Okay.
But let's say it's a truncated version of possibly a worse version.
God damn it.
But it's an interesting film. I will say. I had to get it through library loan to watch it recently. Because like every once in a blue moon, it's on streaming.
Yes.
Because it's one of these movies that's caught in like legal problems with release.
Oh boy.
Which I think a lot has to do because of Tangerine Dream.
They have the licensing for the soundtrack to play, something like that. Because
Tangerine Dream has they've made like 75 albums, and a lot of their music is kind of dual licensed through European and like American markets.
Okay.
As being music that they made for themselves, that they also kind of double dipped.
And used for soundtracks, I guess.
Yeah, because when they might have been making some of this stuff, they weren't thinking about home video, which is one of the problems they have with like a lot of things where movies that are like jukebox, like needle drop films, and it's like, oh, you're never going to see that movie with the music it had because they're never going to get the rights to all 70 songs that they used in this film.
Yeah. Can I tell you, you know what, for me, honestly, up until a few years ago, I didn't realize how big a thing that was. And what woke me up to that was, do you know that show, that anime, Neon Genesis Evangelion?
Yeah, I know of it. I've never watched it.
I don't know if it's on Netflix. You should give it a watch. I don't know if it's on Netflix still anyway, but check this out. So I belonged to like that clique in high school where we were really much into anime. I'm not like so much like that anymore. I don't know if I grew out of it or whatever. But I was really into like, people who like, because I used to watch Sci-Fi Channel Saturday mornings, watch, like Saturday anime and all that. And I was like, whoa, what is this? This is not like anything else I've seen before, right? So I would fall into like, the groups of people who, talk about, Global 13 and Ava, right, for short. And at the end of Ava, at the end of every episode of Evangelion, they would play a cover of Fly Me to the Moon, right? Not anymore. Not if you watch it on Netflix because of the licensing rights. I don't know how that worked, but I guess when I was watching the streaming, I had no idea that they had replaced the end credits song, which for me is huge because it adds to the style of the show. And then when they get to the end credits, and keep in mind the show is very existential. It's framed in very sci-fi kind of, giant robot fighting aliens kind of, the very superficial like interpretation of that. But so at the end of every show, when you'd hear "Fly Me to the," it's supposed to bring you back to a sense of like, I don't know, not reality, but like familiarity, right? So when that was gone, that kind of like was like, what the fuck? I mean, I was kind of looking forward to the end credits, and I later read up on it at the time. I don't know if they ever fixed it actually, but this was a few years ago, and they said that no, due to licensing rights, they have to play the certain another piece from the soundtrack instead of "Fly Me to the Moon," and that just robbed the joy of it for me a little bit. It was like, oh man, because when you watch this stuff and you're growing up, even on bootleg tapes, like on VHS tapes, right? Which is admittedly a lot of like, this is like pre-DVD, so a lot of the times we'd have to watch anime, we'd have to like buy it off eBay or know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who has like a bootleg of it, right? So we get it dubbed. And before this would be before the distribution in the United States, right? And then when you'd watch it, you get a really crummy translation of it. You get really crummy picture quality, and then but you're still enthralled by it because you've never seen anything like this before. You're kind of like your mind's kind of blown every time you watch something like this, right? And then at the very end, you're conditioned to expect that song, and that it not being there kind of was like, oh my god, I just feel like I've been robbed a little bit. It sucks. Yeah, because it's like what you're setting yourself up to hear it, and for me, it's part of the experience of that show. So until then, I didn't realize like holy shit. So if you make a production, you have to secure the rights for all these elements, hopefully for perpetuity, if that. Even fucking what do you call it? Dawson's Creek had that problem. Did you hear about this?
No.
They couldn't get the Paula Cole song.
What?
Yeah, check this out. So
like song?
The song. So listen, last year, I think it was last year or the year before, Netflix had Dawson's Creek. I don't know if it's still on there now. But I was like, you know what? When I was in high school, I blew the show off, and I saw when I was when we were going to SVA, I saw maybe I get the first season DVD and I watched it. I'm like, hey, you know what? I kind of like this. Maybe I shouldn't have been an asshole about it. Maybe I'll go back and watch it one day. So last year, Sabrina and I was like, you know what? Let's watch Dawson's Creek. So I'm bracing myself. I'm like, I'm gonna hear the song. I'm gonna hear the song. I'm gonna hear the song. The song didn't play. They got the song that they originally meant for the show to have instead of the Paula Cole song. And have you ever heard it? Have you ever heard it?
No.
It's not like the Paula Cole song. It's so different. The Paula Cole song brings such an umph to the show. Like it really makes it seem like this is what this is about. And this song, let's say it's bad. It's just not as it's really not as good, and it's kind of mediocre. But the creator of the show kind of I don't know, it wasn't Kevin Williams, but I think it was the showrunner was saying oh no, this is the song we always were meant to have the show. Like the show was always meant to have. And then you listen to it, and it kind of feels like this isn't Dawson's Creek. What is this? and then finally, at the very last episode of the series, that's when that played. Like, okay, we can afford it for this. We can afford it for the very last episode, but we can't afford it for everything else. Well, get this. Like about last year, HBO Max got Dawson's Creek with the proper version with the proper song attached to it. So now I feel like this inner disassociation. I feel like, wait, did I even really watch Dawson's Creek properly? Am I supposed to go back and watch it again with the Paula Cole song? Yeah, it was kind of really weird because Sabrina and I would sit down to dinner. We were about to watch this thing, and then the song would play, and we would just look at each other like, "What is this?" You know what I mean? And then we'd be like, "Oh, I'm kind of getting used to it." Like, nah, not really. We can skip it. That's pretty much it. So I had no idea how big a thing this is to secure the rights to these songs.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're left up shit's creek. You have no idea. Like, what are you going to play instead? Well, can you imagine if they didn't have? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that was. I mean, I brought up the whole thing with Tangerine Dream. That was actually one of the licensing issues they were having with Sorcerer.
Oh, really? That's what took so long.
Well, it was one of them.
Oh God, that's a shame too, because that movie's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh man, that movie is great.
Yeah, I always just find it funny because it was released by Warner Brothers on Blu-ray. And it's like, that's not even one of the... Because it's Fox and Universal were the co-production. They're like, neither one of them. They're like, we don't... whatever. Just somebody else do it.
Dude, I didn't notice that. I didn't notice that's hilarious. Holy... How do you, make sense of this stuff, right? It's like whoever can, would pick up the bill, basically.
Well, yeah. And it's odd because, I was just watching this thing where they were talking about independent movies.
Ooh.
And they're like... they made a joke about the independent films of movies like Rushmore, and they're like, but Rushmore was actually a studio film, or like Terminator 2, and they're like, but Terminator 2 actually is an independent film.
Whoa, really?
In terms of this, Terminator 2 was not made through a studio, one of the big studios. It was made independently by Andrew Vodna and Mario Kassar with the Carolco.
Yeah.
And then given distribution through TriStar, which nobody's going to fucking remember.
What? Oh, man, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because it doesn't show up until the end of the credits.
No shit.
Because the movie starts off with,
Kuroko
and Pacific Western present.
Yes, I forgot about Pacific Western.
Yeah.
Oh.
So what was my story there? Yeah. It's kind of, I was joking with the fact that there's certain movies you're surprised that these huge franchises none of the movies are ever released through the same place. Yeah. It's like the first Terminator is Hemdale, via oh crap.
I don't know if first Terminator as much as I know the second Terminator.
What the hell?
I don't think I can help you here.
I'm trying to remember the name of the studio. There was Ken. No, I almost said Ken. And
No.
who did RoboCop?
Oh shit! It wasn't. It wasn't Golden Globus, was it?
No.
No.
Crap! They were like an independent studio, almost like United Artists. And
I know this. Should I look it up?
They just released their first movie in like 30 years, which was Bill and Ted Save the Universe.
Oh, oh my God. Okay, I'll look it up. God damn it! Wait a minute. Let me look it up.
I'm spending way too much time on this.
No. This is
as you're looking it up, I'm just going to. So Hemdale does Terminator, and then you have. As far as releasing it, though, you've got TriStar does Terminator 2, and then Warner Brothers does Terminator 3. Then, actually, no, Warner Brothers does do Terminator Salvation. Then Fox.
Orion,
yeah, there you go.
That's it.
Orion and Helmdale had like some kind of weird releasing thing. So that's why Terminator falls under MGM's like home video thing, because Orion movies were bought out by MGM Video. I don't know why I know this bullshit. This is like useless.
You know what?
Stuff.
It's you know what? I don't think it is, because I feel like this. I was thinking about this for myself in terms of myself the other day. Like I think the only way, the only thing okay, let me rephrase this. I feel like in certain ways I'm super competitive, and when it comes to like, it's got something to do with movies and the quote unquote the industry, that I feel like I like knowing this stuff because it helps educate me in the kind of like, dare I say it, business I want to do one day maybe. And I'm thinking maybe you're not too dissimilar or not too far off. maybe. I mean, it could be like that you have a very scholarly approach to it that you don't even know about yet, or maybe you do. I don't know. I don't know what the context of this might be.
It's the weird obsession,
That's or that. Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, there wasn't really much of a story to that. That was just like this. I mean, for one thing, maybe they should stop making Terminator movies, but the fact that like the Terminator films, because the rights to it are so expensive, like no studio ever wants to hold on to it. They're like, hey, here, hot potato, you make them now.
That's hilarious, but I didn't know that. And there's a lot of franchises. Well, not so much now, because I feel like people are learning their lesson a little bit. With the exception of maybe Top Gun, because I haven't seen that yet. But I feel like they dredge these things up for one reason or another. Maybe it could be affection, It could be, just because they want to make money. And then they don't do a good job. They try to update it, and they hit all the same tropes that they usually do, that everybody else does, and everybody else repeats, thinking that they're doing anything different, which they don't. And then they drop the ball, and then people get disinterested. Like, I could not give two shits about where Star Wars goes now, Sean. Like, seriously, I do not care. I mean, it could be like they're going to be going like into the future, into the past, and that's like, really, it doesn't matter to me. It's like, I guess they dropped the ball so much that it just feels like and if I keep watching it, it's just self flagellation at this point, expecting like a different result. It's that's how bad it is for me. I mean, when I was talking to a guy about this, like, fairly recently, he goes, "Oh, it's not that bad." I'm like, "Oh, dude, you don't even know. Like, you have no idea." When you used to watch Star Wars, and hopefully you can back me up on this. It's not that's okay too, but it's like, even with the prequels, you felt like they were a bit something special and there was going someplace. Now it feels like we're just treading water. Nothing is happening. Like, even when we know that, quote unquote, the rest of the Skywalker story, quote, it doesn't matter. Like, what does it matter? It doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't really. There's no, like, at the end of Return of the Jedi, at least there was like this knowing that you've gone through something that was, God, I hate to say it, sound like a hyperbole, like once in a generation kind of thing, Yeah,
I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about being like the Amblin kids, right? And that's what that generation kind of had. Even when, for as hard as it was to make those films, the original ones at least, and even like Lucas and Spielberg and Coppola to an extent, going in the trenches like in the 70s and 80s and doing like all the crazy behind the scenes shit that may or may not have happened. I had remember Joe Paradise, the directing teacher at SVA?
Yes.
He talked about visiting the set to One from the Heart, like seeing like an entire street with running water and electricity and all that stuff on the set. Like, they built all that shit.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I said something like that. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I went to the water. Like, the water was running. It's like the entire house." I was like, sad. I'm like, "Oh my god, I never see the movie. I still haven't seen it, right?" But then he talked about like Crystal Gale and Raul Julia, and then he talked about how like Coppola was probably off doing cocaine and like banging some like woman or something like during the making of that movie, like I guess for starters. And what's really funny was that flash forward to when I was reading was it Life Cinema? Coppola put this book together called Life Cinema. Have you checked that out? Called Life Cinema.
No.
It's pretty much his thesis. It's a little bit memoir. It's a little bit thesis about how you can incorporate cinematic techniques in live dramatic productions. It's interesting. There's a bit of it's interesting because there's a little bit of letters. I think he writes to George Lucas without saying it's George Lucas. He says, "Hello, George," right at the end of the book, because the end of the first half of the book is him like talking about his history and with his career or whatever, and then the second half of the book or the last third of the book is all about him talking about like his notes for creating live cinema, and how he's with a university team like of students and doing productions and so forth, which is really interesting. And he talks about how he writes letters to his friend George. I'm like, that's obviously George Lucas. I can't imagine anybody else, right? Because they're tight, Anyway. Earlier on in the book, he talks about how he had gone to, I don't know if this was pre-Godfather. He just got the gig to make The Godfather. And he was like in the special, I don't know if it was LA or San Francisco, this like bohemian section of like San Francisco. And he goes, "Oh, maybe so if I was lucky, maybe a girl can look at me." It was they're very beautiful women there. And I'm thinking, dude, you're married, you have like children. Like, what are you talking about these girls for? What are you kidding me? And then sure enough, he's like this, I don't know if he's like this notorious philanderer or whatever. Anyway, that's besides the point. It's just funny to me how it's behind the scenes stories of these creations that were like, oh wow, hopefully we can get to experience something like that someday. And it's like these people don't know what they have when they have it almost, Yeah. And no, the point I was trying to make was like, shit, these guys who just are living high and mighty, basically. And he's pretty much saying, like, in this book, he talked about how he's like, yeah, I pretty much had to, sit down with people in New York saying, like, hey, you're really in bad financial straits. What are you doing with your life? And that's kind of what straightened him out. It was kind of like, well, what is this? That sucks, though. It's like, how can you put these guys on pedestals, and it's like they do such good work, and it's like, how do you separate your awe from them, your admiration of them from like real life, almost, right? Because you hear about what they do, and it almost feels like, okay, am I supposed to admire them so much that you're kind of blind to what they do? Not that you want to echo the bad parts, but you want to focus on the good parts,
Well, I think sometimes it comes down to maybe you might have an admiration for what they make, but maybe not who they are.
Yeah, well,
and
talked about that.
I mean, like, even to a lesser extent, it'd be the type of thing where it'd be like, you don't need to love the person, but you can kind of just admire about what they do, which I think is kind of a great way to keep yourself detached, because I'll tell you what, there could be, you think about some fandom that you might get into, and what if you were to find out like something awful?
Yeah.
Even if it's something you disagree with.
Yeah, right.
It's something like whenever, I'm trying to think of a good example. Anne brought up something about like, oh man, I really hope they don't find out something about, it'd be like the type of thing like finding out like, that in fact Dolly Parton is an awful person.
Right.
When she just her whole persona is that she's very charitable, And she seems to speak her mind in positive ways, as opposed to saying, something that comes off with like racial, epithets and.
No, I hear you. No, I hear you.
My earbud will not stay in my damn ear.
Well, I can do you one better. My one earbud doesn't work anymore. So I had to, when I was like, doing the sound testing for the cast, I'm like, okay, I hope this works. So it sounds okay to me. I hope it works for you when you get your hands on it. Anyway, but though that's true. When I watched oh my God, the Beatles thing that always came out. What do you call it? What was it called again? the 3-day Beatles thing that came out.
Get
the
back.
Peter Jackson. Get bent.
Get back.
Yes, thank you. Get back. No, it was fantastic, but at the same time, it's if you even like looked a little bit into their history beyond that. I mean, these guys obviously it's the Beatles, so it's like everything. I'll say it probably sounds like so pathetic, or hyperbole, but it's like the impression I got with like these guys really knew their shit. They were passionate about the music at one point, but at this point they were kind of like, okay, whatever, and a lot of it was just for the money, man. I got that vibe a lot. I mean, sure they like jamming together and all that stuff and refining their songs and their technique, but even later on when they were I think what was the guy's name, Alan Kleinman or whatever the guy's name, the guy that they brought in to manage their affairs. He's the guy who's based out of New York that John Lennon really liked, and he roped in Ringo, and Ringo would have been like, okay, whatever, you guys, and George was like, oh yeah, he's pretty good, and then Paul's kind of like the only holdout, going, I don't know about this guy, right? The impression I got was like, yeah, we're obviously world famous, we have a brand obviously, and a reputation to keep, but at the end of the day, it's not. It may be about the songs, but it's also about the money. So I feel like they were very, 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 business oriented, which, for me, for my view of what the Beatles are, I was sort of slightly surprised to see. I don't know why I was surprised to see it. I guess it's because it felt like immediate,
Oh yeah. Well,
thanks to that show. Thanks to the Get Back anyway.
I mean, I get that. It's it's one of the, like, I don't think anybody has really was ever really kind of thinking them as being a well, because we see all this stuff now every day with things being a brand, it's a corporation.
Yes.
And the fact of them being like, I mean that really was just kind of them going to work and having to satisfy like a date, and
yes, that's right.
I think I think about the first time I ever kind of thought about a band actually being a company was when I found out that REM had decided to dissolve their band. And I thought to myself, dissolve the band? I'm like, I mean, don't you just stop making music? Like, and I was like, and I thought about it, and I'm like, oh, the reason why they have to like dissolve the band is because they have to break everything down, and it's nobody tours anymore. You can't tour as REM. You can't release any music now as REM. The company known as REM no longer is going forward.
Right.
You're now just these separate guys, and it was kind of like a weird thing because I mean this was I don't know how long ago. Might have just been like 10 years ago, but when you're like a teenager or something, you like some of these bands, you're just like, yeah, they're like bands, man. Like if they stop making music, that they might get back together a couple of years later.
Right.
They just continue.
Right. Yeah, right. Right. You don't think of it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's also something. Well, we sort of touched on this before in another context, which is the business side of it, right? Of art, I guess, where I mean you're not thinking about the dare I say it, the businessy capitalistic quote unquote side of it. You're thinking about the creation of it, right? And just the other day, I was listening to a clip from a podcast talking about The Founder, the Michael Keaton McDonald's movie.
Yes, yeah.
And they were comparing it with what's going on with the Tolkien estate and Amazon.
Oh.
And the new Lord of the Rings, that the Lord of the Rings universe that they're conjuring right now. And I had to listen to the entire thing, and I'm only as familiar with the Lord of the Rings work just on the reading the books and then watching the Peter Jackson films. And I have to say this, I have started reading the Silmarillion fairly recently, and I gotta tell you, and I was kind of like, I don't know if I was shocked or delighted when I found this out, but a lot of Kabbalah and mystical occultism is integrated into the creation mythos of the world, of the Tolkien world, the Middle Earth and the West and the North and the all that stuff, and how that became how the universe came to be in what became the Lord of the Rings universe. I don't know if you ever heard of if you know that story of Iluvatar, which is like their main god of that. It's the main presence that gives rise to the whole universe of the Lord of the Rings, basically. And do you know any of that?
No, no.
Oh God, it's fascinating. I wouldn't have known this if I didn't look into again. I mean, not to harp on the conspiracy shit, but if you look into conspiracies and occultism, it goes into Kabbalah, and it goes into I guess Jewish mysticism, and it goes into even if you read the more contemporary works on interpreting the Kabbalah, it talks about the descent of or the ascent really of how can you put this? It's like the way I've heard it compared to me. It's sort of like when you have an idea and you want to put it to material terms. Like you'll have you'll have an idea to build a chair, for instance, and then you go about actually making the chair. And then what you're really doing in an esoteric point of view or an occultist point of view is you're actually manifesting your will into reality, right? There are other levels to this. That go into this thing called Hermeticism and other philosophies, where it's like, well, what's the idea? I know it gets a little funky, but it says, what's the idea of the chair? What does the chair really mean? It goes into that nitty gritty stuff of it. Well, if you go to Silmarillion, which is the sort of the collection of stories that Tolkien kind of devised as to the lead up of I hate to call it the Lord of the Rings verse because it's not that. It's the Lord of the Rings takes place in this world, right? And it's sort of like the main battle to end all battles, as it were, that defines what this era kind of was, I guess. But the way he talks about it is that in the beginning, it was kind of like the Genesis creation myth. It was like, okay, in the beginning there was the water, the darkness and light, and that kind of thing. But with more than that, it talks about how there was this presence called Iluvatar, which kind of can also mean like the force in the light kind of thing. And then from there, it talks about how Iluvatar would sing, and then from his singing, he would generate kind of not subservient beings, but beings that would help him, like angels. It's comparable to God and the angels and so forth, right? And then there was this one angel, as it were, comparing itself a little bit to Lucifer, as it were, that didn't want to sing the same song that everybody else was singing and sang his own song. But because Iluvatar being Iluvatar, he said, okay, you know what? I'm going to just come up with another song to counterbalance what your song is. And then the archetypical template was set. Whereas no matter how things got dark because of this one straining element, which later down the line became the Dark Lord Morgoth, and then Morgoth was kind of like the master of Sauron. Okay. It's incredible. He would the main god Iluvatar would be like, no matter how dark you'll say things are, I'm always going to counteract with something that'll just bring back balance to whatever universe this is, and they'll be even 10 times brighter. In other words, And the descent starts from there, where it just becomes like it'll be Iluvatar, the servants of Iluvatar, and then this one guy named Morgoth who breaks off and wants to do his own thing and corrupts everything, and then sort of like the middle managers in between, pretty much the main god and the subservient. It's like it becomes very kind of like corporatized, or I don't even know if that's the right word. It becomes very kind of bureaucratic. And bureaucratic. And then what's really fascinating too, I haven't gotten to this part yet, but the book comes with a glossary. It comes with a glossary and it comes with an index, right? And I can't help myself, so I'm looking up all these different terms because I don't know any of this shit. And eventually you'll come across like this this term called I think it's called the Ainar, Ainar, and they're kind of like the middle people, and then the wizards like Gandalf are part of these people. Like they're like sort of on the familiar terms with all like the higher kind of like the higher middle managers, as it were, between the main god and everybody else, and they're kind of like the oh god, what's the word? They're always like kind of like on the not that they're diplomats. I don't know what can I describe this as? It's like they're busy people, and they have intrigues, but they're not on the side of evil, as it were. Like, remember Gandalf in the films?
Yeah.
It's like Gandalf always had his own agenda happening, but the agenda he had didn't necessarily. How can I put this? It's not like he. It's not like it was to his own ends. It was obviously working for somebody, like maybe an idea or something that just meant like this is the right thing to do, right? We have to get this together so that at least we can build a bulwark against whatever evil forces are coming, right? He was working on other interests that you may not know about. In terms of the films, you didn't really care what they were. You just felt like Gandalf was kind of a leader in that sense. But the thing of it is that, as far as I know anyway, Gandalf still would be working with these other kind of entities that you don't even know about. Like, he just was like a wizard, and that's what that wizard meant in that world. And that's how he knew that kind of magic. I don't mean to get really kind of involved with all this. It's just that when I was reading it, I was like, wow, this actually crosses very, very beautifully with all these kind of like both like I guess like Old Testament stuff, and aside that like Kabbalah. It kind of blew my mind that it was so like kind of neatly kind of entwined in all that stuff, which you wouldn't know about it if you just stick with the movies and so forth. It becomes very rewarding, and the reason I bring all this up is because it's like, okay, well, again, I mean, I don't know if the Amazon productions are going to go into this at all. I don't know how quote unquote esoteric they're going to get. But the main thing is that the podcast was talking about, it's like comparing it to The Founder, which I haven't seen, talking about how McDonald's was set up by these brothers who, just really kind of were concerned about their product that they were making. And again, I don't know if this is what really happened or not. This could have been like a movie embellishment, but they just wanted to do something that was like, that they knew was, that they could improve, and then they could probably, develop a kind of process to deliver and still deliver good quality for something. Whereas Roy Kroc shows up and kind of makes it like, okay, you know what? This is a great kind of like, service business to whatever it is I really want to do. And that is like just to win, and just to create a corporation that can just take over other things and be dominate. Cause that's what corporations kind of do.
Yeah.
And yeah. And if we lose the essence of what it was, then tough luck. I don't really care, because, that's pretty much what we do. And how, I don't know. I mean, there's always that dark side, right? Where again, this goes back to Star Wars, because that's what exactly happens in Star Wars. Not to go tangential about it, but I don't know. It's just how can you survive all this? Like, how do you like have something that can become like that's something that's like innately good or a product that you're passionate about, and it survives like the stress test, right? Of it being like taken across the ride of like of life, and it being destroyed by like greed or whatever, yeah. and all this stuff, and that's what came to mind when you were talking about a whole bunch of stuff, actually, when you're talking about these pitching and I guess that and knowing what who, like, what are these franchises like now that they're what is that? Are you clapping?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is a hair clip. Popping the hair clip.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Anyway.
I can kind of relate to that with something that's kind of what happens with professional wrestling. There is these guys who, for the most part, I mean, okay, up until a couple of years ago, there was one big show in town, and then there was a lesser minor show in town. So there would be WWE, and then there was TNA Impact Wrestling.
Yeah.
And now, since 2019, they also have AEW.
Yes.
Now, here's the thing. Ann and I are wrestling fans. We watch wrestling. We have not watched a WWE show in the longest time. During the pandemic, Ann got very into British strong style wrestling.
Oh shit!
And because of the Peacock has this deal with the WWE.
Yeah.
You can watch Progress Wrestling, which is a promotion over in England.
Yeah.
And it's extremely entertaining.
Oh shit!
And she got really into a lot of the guys over there, to the point where she dressed up like one of them for Halloween. Now, my point was with WWE, what happens is they have these guys that, on the independent circuit or in some of these other promotions, they gain like this following. And then what happens is they'll take them, offer them like a nice lucrative contract.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about WWE is that their checks clear.
Well, yeah.
Because they have a shit ton of money.
Yes, they do.
And what happens is these guys are human, and they think, all right, the road is really hard, and if I'm going to be doing, say, 200 or 250, 250 dates a year, I at least want to get paid well. So I'll go work for the evil corporation. And what happens is they bring their following, and the company brings them in, and they change everything about them. Now, did they bring them in because they would be popular, or did they bring them in because they're trying to destroy what they were out there, to try and build them up with a worse character?
The heel.
Yeah, and it's like it's this weird thing. Like for one thing, like they've been doing WWE has been doing a lot of bad work and a lot of bad promotions the last couple of years, and not for nothing, man. The fact that they are in like a partnership with the Saudi prince.
Oh shit! I didn't know that. Huh.
Let me put it. We actually used to own stock in WWE.
Oh, wow.
And
go figure.
After they had announced that they were doing this show over in Saudi Arabia, and the Saudi prince had that reporter taken apart with a chainsaw, I sold all the stock. And the stock was, a share was at $103 and went down to $37.
Holy shit.
In 3 days.
Holy shit. Whoa, I didn't know about that. You're really quick. I got to tell you. So, again, this is one of those things that I've been actually wanting to bring it up. I don't know how this happened, but my YouTube started recommending... My YouTube, like I own it. The YouTube started recommending WWE clips for me to watch. This is months ago. So I used to watch a little bit of the Attitude Era, like in the late 90s. And because my friends weren't into it at the time, so I was like, oh, okay, whatever, right? And I used to do, this is like, they sort of appropriated me, my friends did at the time, to be color commentator for their own federation, Backyard Wrestling Federation. And I forgot what it was called, but they were really using me for my camera because I had a video camera at the time. So they would like record all their, all their shit, and then they would try to sell it on the internet. Anyway, regardless. So anyway, I've been watching like clips of wrestling, and I gotta tell you, bro, and I knew you're into wrestling. I figured, okay, I should bring this up. I didn't appreciate then what I know now about the amount of production value involved whenever you make these things. Like and the performances, I didn't see it at the time. That's because it was like it was really kind of those verisimilitude kind of stuff where it's like, wait, is this real? Isn't it real? It's like whatever, but no, it's a performance basically, and I when I was watching these clips, like the Stone Cold clips and the Mr. McMahon clips and the Rock stuff, I'm like, holy shit, this is bringing me back to when I was a teenager, and watching all that stuff. On especially the Undertaker stuff. Well, WrestleMania was a few months ago, and I didn't know about oh my god, what's the guy? Was it Cody Rhodes?
Yeah,
Dusty Rhodes' son. I didn't know about him. So when WWE released a thing with Seth freaking Rollins, promo leading up to WrestleMania. And him meeting with Mr. McMahon and Mr. McMahon saying you're gonna have like a mystery challenger that I'm gonna choose that you're not gonna know about. But seeing McMahon that way, though, I haven't seen McMahon in such a long time, honestly. That when I saw him like that, oh man, he really is like this old man now. And then when we were in Cape May just a few weeks ago, we don't have cable here. We just watch whatever we get streaming. And we had cable at the hotel room we were staying in, and we were there on a Monday. So I'm like, oh shit, Raw's on. So I started watching Raw, which I haven't seen. Like I haven't really legitimately sat down and watched Raw in like forever. Like willfully, forever. And I'm watching this thing and I'm like, wow, there's something curiously hollow and prepackaged about this that was not the case at all when I used to watch it back in the day. Like I remember like there was an energy in whenever Raw would start. Like you have King Lawler and JR just being that commentary, and they were the voice of Raw, sadly, for what it was. And then shit would happen. And Sean, listen to me. I didn't know the moves. I didn't know any of that stuff, right? But you can tell there was something happening. No matter how campy it was, and no matter how like kind of bullshit it was, they sold it very well.
Oh yeah.
Like they had passion. And now it's not like these people don't have passion. It just feels like fast food, right? Going back to the McDonald's thing, it feels like fast food a little bit. And then of course my brain's going back to like how like McMahon is now, where he's kind of like this old kind of like king, or if you want to go that far. Who's a sort of like maybe like treading water at this point. I don't know.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Yeah, it's there's some crazy doings. For one thing, the guy probably should have gracefully stepped aside some time ago. He's still pushing a lot of like out of date ideas. I think that maybe the guy should just take a chance on like trying to entertain his audience with what they might want and not what he wants.
Well, did you see any of the WrestleMania stuff, though? I mean, I saw clips of it online, and it felt a little bit like that, a little bit. Some of the former rather than the latter. It felt like, okay, we're going to give, I guess another deal with Cody Rhodes, I guess, again. After he'd gone to, he went to AEW, was it?
He actually started AEW.
AEW, yeah.
He's one of the
founder.
One of the four guys that they didn't pay for it, but there were four guys who started AEW, and they used it's actually Tony Khan's father, who's the billionaire.
I read a little bit about that.
Like if Tony Khan's father woke up and had Vince McMahon's money, he'd probably have a heart attack and die. He'd be like, "What happened to all my fortune?" So
yeah.
No, but it was is that not to get too much into wrestling, but it's kind of more about like to bring it back around to like business.
Right.
There is something about we don't enjoy watching some of the shows because there's way too many commercials, and everything has become less like it has its basis in carnival life. And it's not really that anymore. It is really like watching a reality show. And not for nothing, we kind of like the wrestling. And
True that.
they don't use the word wrestling anymore.
What do they use? Entertainment?
Yeah. There might be wrestling, but they don't have wrestlers.
Yeah, I've seen some. I've
They
seen
have
a little bit about
superstars, or
this.
they have entertainment.
And they fight for titles. They don't actually say belts anymore. Like something like that to that effect. Now, I don't mind. I don't mind you going into wrestling a little bit more. Only selfishly because I just fairly recently, like this a few months ago, I brushed up on a lot of videos, just merely out of curiosity and nostalgia's sake. Because I mean that was always a sort of something I happened to in my life that I wasn't really into and I didn't really get it. And I still mostly don't, but at the same time, like when I go back to it, I'm like, holy shit! A lot of this stuff was like incredibly entertaining. Like I guess so, like I watched this thing with because Undertaker retired. He retired a little while ago, but he was put into the Hall of Fame recently, and for whatever it's worth, I don't know, but I was watching a lot of old Undertaker clips, and it's just that it's kind of like that shit that you see that when you're younger you sort of you might marvel at, but then you sort of take for granted because you always expect people like this to like be there, like you almost feel like there's always going to be an Undertaker, or you're always going to see a match like this happening somewhere in the cosmos or something like that. And I always wonder, like, wait a minute, dude, did I really believe like this stuff was like not to be an asshole about it and say it's fake or whatever, right? But a lot of this stuff is performance, right? And especially when you have like a scene like the Undertaker being like throwing Kane into like who's like Lord and Mayor now of something county in Virginia. Funny enough, I had no idea.
Tennessee.
The guy who plays Kane, Tennessee. Oh, see, I didn't know. But still, it's like when I was like growing up and seeing Kane, it was like he's Undertaker's brother. They separated. Something happened to him. It's like it becomes the kind of drama, right? Soap opera-y stuff. But then it's like that's the hook, right? And then you see this guy being thrown into supposedly being thrown into was it a casket or whatever? And then and the casket being set on fire. Like I don't know if it was Kane or Undertaker. See, it's interchangeable for me at this point. But then it's like you see like these people who are already there in the background telling people to keep away because they know they're going to the place is going to be the casket's going to be on fire, right? But they're selling it so well that you don't even know that the wool's being pulled over in front of your eyes. It's like, holy shit, this is incredible. It's actually happening. And you have JR saying like, oh my God. It's like the whole thing. It's that's why it's like, when I watched like the Attitude Era, so and I had no idea it was called the Attitude Era. For me, it was like, okay, it was WWF, right, at the time. And then, Stone Cold. Holy shit, bro. I mean, like, even when, like, Stone Cold's like kind of like, he does his own podcast now. He does all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he came back for WrestleMania, and people went ape shit, like ape shit. And I think he had like a match with like McMahon too.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, I know. But still, it's the conditioning because when you hear that glass break and you hear his theme come on, it's like holy shit, it's Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh yeah.
Fuck. And it's so funny because I'm like, what did this guy look like when he used to be younger? He looks so weird with hair.
He looked kind of strange with hair.
Yeah. You almost think of him as like always being bald and being like a badass attitude. And that goes into like deeper territory with like with the Hart brothers and the Montreal Screwjob and all that stuff. Yeah. It's like, see, the thing is, I got like a thing of for Peacock, and out of shits and giggles, I'm like, how far does it go back with Monday Night Raw? And I think it was like 1991, 92, 93. I'm like, if I wanted to watch all of these episodes, it would take me forever.
Oh yeah.
Because then it's like I have to, and I forgot they used to have a Sunday Night Heat, right? They used to have like Monday Night Raw, and then they used to have SmackDown on Thursdays, and then they would have Sunday Night Heat, and that would be before the pay-per-view.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the shit, just slipped by me. I just over like when I got older, that shit just went out the window in my head. I forgot about that stuff. So I'm like, if I wanted to get into this now, it almost feels like it's too dense. Like how do you even start with this stuff?
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot to it, and honestly, I
Yeah.
mean, I could tell you for somebody who like, like we tend to watch a lot of like wrestling on the weekends,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
on certain nights. But it's like it's these these British shows from over the seas. We have to wait for them to be loaded.
Uploaded,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's just so odd because a lot of times these shows have guys that were fired from WWE and now they're showing up on their network working for another
Huh.
promotion.
But going back to your point though, I mean, do you feel how different, for instance, how different are the British shows compared to like WWE? I mean, like main event, like promotions. I mean, like how they different from Raw or even like SmackDown or Next or whatever.
Well, the production of them is much different, and I don't even mean it like it's cheaper. I just mean that it just seems a little. It's scrappier and like there's a certain kind of energy to it.
That's good.
Because I mean, back in the day, I mean, I went to ECW shows when I was in high school.
Oh shit.
And I mean, it kind of
Those were the hardcore ones. I remember. Those
that
were
was
like
the
those were
dangerous
blood.
Yeah, that was the dangerous
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
The kind of stuff where
Man.
you'd try and sneak things into the show and
They could use them.
attacking people with sandpaper, or the one time that we were able to get a computer keyboard
Yeah.
and somebody got smashed over the head with it.
Dude. Oh shit! And what blew my mind was the guy who used to used to own it. What's his name? The guy who also does promos with Roman Reigns, right?
Paul Heyman.
What's his name?
Paul Heyman.
Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
He used to run ECW, right?
Yes.
Didn't he make it? That's crazy to me. I can't believe it.
Yeah. Yep.
That's fucking crazy. I had no idea. Like I thought, honest to goodness, I thought those two would never WWF or E, right? And ECW were two totally different beasts. Like the more extreme, well, ECW, the more extreme people. Like I knew some guys who were really into wrestling when I was growing up. And they were like, oh, we're gonna watch the ECW show. I'm like, oh my god, that's not me. I can't do that shit. That's like, you guys have fun with that. That's not. I'm always, there's a limit, and that's my limit. I won't go to ECW stuff. Not that I went to any events, but any WWE E events. But it was kind of like, yeah, you guys have fun with that. I'm kind of on the periphery. I'm not gonna get into that stuff. But then that gave rise to to MMAs and UFCs and all that shit.
There were places for a lot of those guys to go to. Yeah. One of the crazier things is that there was an ECW show that we went to. We because we were living in northeast Pennsylvania. We went down to Philly. One of the girls who went with us, she ended up having sex with one of the wrestlers.
Holy shit! How did that happen? Like one thing led to another.
It was
the wooing happened.
It was gross. That's what it was.
Wait, were you there for that?
We had to wait for her.
Wait.
We were her ride.
I bet. Not in that night. Not in that sense. Like, she came out, okay, guys, I'm ready. Like, spraying Windex on her.
Something like that, yeah.
Jesus Christ. Like, did he get his number at least? Did he give your number? Ew. Like, did she, talk about it on the way home?
Yeah.
What the fuck? No comment. That was another time, another place.
No, actually, I think I fell asleep. I don't even remember driving home. Well, I wasn't the one driving, but I don't remember the drive.
Man. From northeast Pennsylvania to Philly, that was 2 hours. 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Yeah, we would make it was probably about 2. I mean, yeah.
Man, You know what? It's so funny that because I feel like there are like these events that happen in your life, Sean, that like if I only knew your screenwriter movie side, I wouldn't know about it unless you told me, obviously, right? I just feel like when it comes to like the like rambunctious Sean Nolan, like that's one part of your life, and then when you became serious about wanting to write, there's a lot of discipline that came out being associated with that. Is that too far? Is that too far off to observe, or like what do you think?
Yeah, I see that. It's
yeah.
Oh man, there's.
It demands a little bit of seriousness. This kind of shit though. When you wanna just tell a story or put like pencil to paper or whatever it is, it's like yeah, you can talk about some really fun weird shit, but at the same time, when you go back and reread it, you're like, and then you're like, oh wait, this could still work, and then the mechanical brain part of it comes out, and you start to try to make it work. But then it's so funny because I always have a conflict with this myself when it's like, okay, like I know that at the end of the day, basically what this is about telling a good yarn, right? And you want people to be entertained by it. You want to be entertained by it yourself, and you want to be proud, and you want to be happy. You want to make stuff that people like, That's not too far removed, right? But then knowing that it's like, shit, you have to live your life, and then you have other passions in your life. And it almost feels like, how do you negotiate things that may not be mutually exclusive, right? That on first glance anyway, right? Like I still have trouble today wondering whether or not I'd rather do something like movies, or screenwrite anyway and transition to that, if that's even one way to do it, which I think it is, obviously. But then it's like, okay, but then I'm also very much at home with writing prose and short fiction, if not maybe longer works of fiction,
Yeah, well, Dashiell Hammett, he.
Oh, look at me.
Him and Billy Wilder, worked on the script for Double Indemnity. So.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Oh shit, I forgot about that.
Well, all those writers were working on something.
It was James M. Cain who wrote, didn't he write Double Indemnity? No, never mind. That was Postman Always Knocks Twice, Rings Twice. Okay. Well, anyway, but that's always a thing for me. It's like it was kind of like it was a struggle, right? Like, how do you how do I shift gears here a little bit, because it involves like two very different approaches for me anyway, right? I know some people are kind of like, well, you just write it and you shoot it, and it's like, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing at all. Sometimes it lends itself, some shit lends itself well to that, but it's something. Some other stuff is not that easy, because you're plugged in a different way depending on what it is,
Yeah.
And then you'll have an attitude towards it, and then from there it's like, okay, well, how do I back myself away from this and put on a director's hat, as it were? But then I don't know how you feel about this, but in the action of doing that, you almost divorce yourself from the attitude that you had to create the damn thing to begin with. And
I totally understand that.
Yeah, and it sucks, because it's like, the stuff that I've written that other people say, oh, you should adapt that, you should adapt that. I'm like, I can't do that, because I fuck it up. I can't. I just be old thumbs.
Yeah.
In order for it to be like effective, you'd have to approach it in a way that you almost feel like you have to approach it like a breeze or a breath of fresh air, so that you know how to handle it. And otherwise, it's like it becomes very rote and very mechanical. It's like, okay, this should look like this and that should look like that, and maybe that is the approach to take. But honestly, I don't know otherwise. I wish I did, because then hopefully maybe my life would be a lot easier or more complicated. I don't know yet, but right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was really kind of hoping to be able to, I don't know. I feel like I'm getting old.
Yeah, same here. But you know what though? I think about this too. I do. It's like, is it too late to start? Is it over already? You know, should I have taken a different path?
I don't think it's too late. The problem is that, like, it would feel okay if I felt like I was doing something. You know, it's always kind of like that whole, you know, think about like the one of the advertisements they had at SVA about
yes,
about Paul Gauguin working in a bank.
Yes.
And I'm just like, yeah, I'm past that age.
No, I don't think so.
Well, I think he was 35.
Was he really?
Yeah, I think he was 35.
I like to imagine him older, but even then, I mean, if it helps, I mean, Salvador Dali didn't like Paul Gauguin at all. He thought he sucked, actually. If you want to go by that metric. He had a whole entire section of his book about that. He wrote this thing called, I think, 10 Secrets of Magic Craftsmanship, right? And he had like a scale of people he thought were genius painters, and the people he thought really sucked. At the top of the scale was Vermeer. Apparently he loved Vermeer and Rembrandt, the Dutch masters, and then all the way at the bottom was Gauguin. Yeah.
That's like some of these filmmakers nowadays that don't mind throwing certain people under the bus as being just like hacks. That shit's hilarious.
Yeah. But even that, but you know what though, Sean, you know, I don't know if this applies to everybody, but I'll see some like Serena watches a lot of Hallmark. Like she leaves it on, and I'm watching this stuff. I'm like,
when
okay,
calls the heart.
When the wind like meddling mom, shit like that. And I'm watching this and I'm like, no, there's a level of craft involved here. The reach might not be that much because it's like, you know, it's a Lifetime like Hallmarky thing, but there's like craft being involved. Whereas, you know, we've had our discussions about Denis Villeneuve, and I have my issues with him. I like Dune, but it was like, you know, and there's stuff about, you know, 2049 that I appreciate, but at the end of the day, I'm kind of like, this isn't working for me. Whereas other people are kind of, you know, they're ready to like orgasm all over, you know, 2049. And maybe President Clinton included. I don't know. I don't know if you're that passionate about.
Well, we've had this discussion. You voiced your opinion about.
Oh yeah, so did you.
And I said that I know, and you're wrong, but you know, no, I'm just kidding.
Fucking asshole.
No, we've had. That discussion.
I don't know what other. Yeah, we did. But anyway, like, the point I'm trying to make is I know there's a metric to these things, right? Well, I mean, as an aside, I don't know how much more I could give this movie, Sean, by not, like, I saw it in IMAX. I sat through all of it. And at the beginning, I thought, oh my God, I should not be here by myself. I should be with people that I know to watch this movie. But by the end of it, I'm like, I want to get out of here. I can't do this movie anymore. I give it a chance, sir. I give it an honorable, respectful chance. It's not like I saw this movie on Betamax, Sean, and I'm like, fuck this movie. I'm not going to see this. It's stupid. You know, it's...
The first time I ever saw Mad Max, I saw it on Betamax.
Betamax. Yeah.
No.
But anyway, the point I'm trying to make with all this is, like, I know there are scales for these things, and everybody has their own, you know, personal interpretation. You know what? Even, like, the bad movies from, like, you know, when we were growing up, aside from like the exceptionally bad ones, right? They have more charm in them than some of the movies nowadays do, I guess. But is that even fair to say? I mean, think about it this way: it's like in 20 years' time, right? Are people going to go be looking back on Marvel movies, let's say, and they're going to be saying like, "Wow, they don't make them like this anymore." Like at least those Marvel movies, they'd had like heart and they had, you know, if you can say that, and they had a sense of humor to them. Whereas nowadays, like, can you imagine? It's like, what can they even do in, like, you know, sadly 20 years time? And I'm serious about this. I mean, think of it this way: if the climate becomes, and I don't mean to get political here, but I mean, this does impact filmmaking and craftsmanship, right? If something like, you know, climate change becomes more of a quote unquote, you know, if people take it more seriously, let's say, right? And then they enact rules and laws to limit people's, I don't know, travel I guess just around the world, but also like interstate and local travel. How are they going to make films? How are they going to benefit industries? They have the people have an idea that say in 20 within 8 to 12 years. Not I mean like to be like a climate alarmist. It's not my intention. It's like I read this stuff, and they say like we're going to pass a point of no return in regards to carbon usage, right? And then one antidote to that would be to limit people's ability to do anything. So you won't be able. So if people take that seriously, I'm not saying that's the antidote, right? But if people take that seriously, then they want people to live. They want climate equity. In other words, they want people who live in quote unquote first world countries to have the same amount of carbon usage quote unquote as people in quote unquote third world countries. So and people in those third world countries don't have like roads, they don't have like taxes, like all that stuff, right? So they want to make sure that people at least have the opportunities to live life that people who are in richer countries are have been more entitled to. I don't mean to go on and on about this, but the thing of it is, it's like, okay, well, by extension of that, who gets to decide who makes what, and especially when it comes to films, let's say, as an extraneous point, who decides to make what, and how climate friendly can it be, let's say. So in 10, or at least in maybe 10, 15 years' time, you might not even get movies that are made outside anymore. It could be that Lucas was ahead of his time with making the prequels and blue screens and all that stuff, because a lot of those films are nowadays, like all the Marvel films, are shot like in projection booths, basically.
They're all filmed in. They joke it's in a parking garage in Atlanta.
In Atlanta, exactly. So
and when you see the behind the scenes things about where they film a lot of those Marvel, I really kind of would go, man, that really kind of takes the magic out of it.
It does. And you know what sucks too? I was watching something. No, I was listening to something about the making of the Boba Fett thing, and they said, "Oh, dude, did you realize that they were like social distancing on when they were doing the blocking? You didn't even notice it because it's such a wide shot." And I'm like, "Holy shit! I didn't think of that." Because of COVID, obviously. So it's like they have a way of not all the time, but they have a way of slipping by you with optical effects and digital effects that you don't even notice that they're doing that, which is I guess commendable because it doesn't take you out of it, but it sucks that everything else kind of sucks.
Well, you know what, the last duel was made during the pandemic, so if Ridley Scott can make the last duel during the pandemic, you can do Uncle Vanya, okay?
Uncle Vanya. War and peace, Sean. War and peace. Oh my, and something else too. Can you imagine Cooper coming back from the dead and making Napoleon? During pandemic? He just shows up. Like, all right, it's time for the step aside, boys. Or sorry, men and women. Oh, is the age of the movie over, Sean? Is it over? Is it done? Is it gonna be
I watched a video. I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy Thomas Flight.
No.
He's got a YouTube channel. I don't even know if his name is Thomas Flight, but I subscribe to his movie channel because he has a very soothing voice. And he does video essays about movies, predominantly movies. And he's usually sponsored by things like Mubi. So he's always doing things about like Terrence Malick and shit like that. But he did like an essay about Scorsese talking about cinema and such. And it was a very insightful thing because it was kind of what I thought when I heard about what he said about cinema. It was kind of what I was thinking too. And for it not to be thought of as being an insult, it just happens to be that because of the age of existing IP and for things to be a corporate product and thinking about how this is impacting that you don't make a movie, say, like, I'm trying to think of a good example here. I'm trying to think of something that was a non-existing IP that was made recently, but that it doesn't. Well, okay, I'll take like a something from like like an A24 movie. Take something like Midsummer.
That's a good example. Yeah.
Like Midsummer it's a modern what do they call those things? Like a modern they had a name for it. It's not intellectual horror, modern heightened horror that has no marketability at all. You can't sell anything from it. You could parody it by being the whole thing about, cults and culture and, somebody, this person from Scandinavia said, I don't understand why anybody thought, why you would be criticizing the people in that movie. He says, what if there are people that live that way?
Yeah.
It's like, just because you don't live that way does not give you the right to criticize it. Mm-hmm. I was like, eesh. I mean, like, it's true, and it's a little, I guess, from a Western point of view, it's a little creepy. But that's a movie where you're not selling shit from it. There's no real way to.
Well, you can sell the movie itself, though.
Yeah, you know what I mean, though. Like,
I do. You can't.
There's
have,
no
like,
TV show. There's no.
Yeah, that they'll probably come up with something in regards to that, like Return to Midsommar.
Yeah.
Or Midsommar, or like something like Fargo, where they have anthology tales.
Yeah.
So I mean, this gets to pitch some stuff out, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, because a lot of things have kind of become a part of like a conglomerate in that way.
Yeah.
Like the only odd outlier from that would be something like the fact that Zack Snyder's Justice League actually exists.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there was a canon for what the Justice League movies are supposed to be, that actually goes against some of the things that they were doing going forward.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, there's other examples. I mean, my best example would be a movie like The Last Duel.
Mm-hmm.
It's based on a book. I mean, you're not really going to do an extended universe on something like that.
Yeah. But it's also like, it's also like not that movies didn't have like social messaging before. Of course they did, but at the same time though, it's like, okay, well, like when you're making like because I think at the end of the day, like Last Duel is very much a social messaging movie, just packaged in the I don't know if packaged is the right word, but it came
told through.
Yeah, told through. Perfect. Told through like this historical lens, right? And I'm wondering, like, when you have like even Dark Knight to an extent had a social message to it, right? I know this probably is like apples and oranges, but when you're getting to the last act of that movie, and it's a long movie though. I mean, it's just the thing is furiously paced, but the thing is, it's a long movie when you get to by the time you get to the last act of Dark Knight with the boats. It's kind of like Nolan being like, you're kind of looking at Nolan like, okay, I know you're trying to say, stop. You know what I mean?
Well, the whole point of that movie is what Tiny Lister is telling you. It's like you. I'm gonna do what you should have did 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I do exactly. Well put, sir. Well put. Well put. But I'm wondering. The thing is, it's like when it becomes a social messaging thing. Just to put it out there, right? It's like, okay, are you asking us to take the movie as a whole And I'm sorry if this sounds like, like monkey brain talk right now. Nothing against monkeys, but I'm this, monkey in the chalkboard kind of thing. It's like, are you asking us to accept the movie as a whole and I'm tripping over my words here. Whatever, as a whole, right? And let me get my thoughts down here for a second. Like, what becomes more important, basically? Is it the message you're trying to say, or the act of making a film that's engrossing in order to sell that message? I don't know if you're following or if
I get that.
For me, it's like honestly, it's like I honestly really enjoyed The Last Duel. I honestly goodness did. But the thing is, like, the one thing that I didn't like about that movie was when we said that, when it was told, when we find out the truth, that was kind of like, oh, that I know that you're trying to make a statement with that, and I can appreciate it. And again, because maybe I'm the patriarchy or the male or whatever, and I shouldn't be saying these things. But at the same time, like, you know what? I would have preferred it. It would have been far more effective for me personally, if it was just as ambiguous as the other previous two perspectives. Because then I guess for me it would become more juicier. I'm like, oh shit, that's an incredibly important point. I know she's coming from now, rather than saying like, this is what you should believe. Ignore the other two.
Well, what's really crazy is that I would almost kind of say that all three versions are the truth. It just happens to be the fact that Matt Damon wasn't there, and his ass thinks that it's all about him. And Adam Driver is like, I don't understand it, man. It's, shit happens, and I think maybe she just needs to relax. Because I was like, dude,
calm down, Sean.
Like, his side of the story is like, dude, like, I just watched what you did.
Well, that Adam Driver section was just kind of like, micro eyes wide shut a little bit, right? Where he gets in good with the whole movie's like really well cast, and having like Ben Affleck being like, okay, whatever, like whatever. This guy's such an asshole, Matt Damon. He's always such a pest. Like, oh sure, whatever. He thinks he's so good. He's this pain in the butt. And then, you have Adam Driver who's moving up in the world, as it were, right? And is like, kind of like, orgy buddies with this guy. And, and like, being able to throw his weight around, saying that he's under the authority of one, and then it adversely affects all these other people's lives. I should read the book. I mean, it sounds like something I really would probably get into just to find out. And then, I don't know, I think we're saying the same thing in different ways. I think by the time because I was really into it, and then when we got to that chapter marker.
Yeah, I know.
It says the truth according to that.
It's the chapter marker.
Marker. That part where the truth just lingers, and I'm like, see, for me, my editing brain's on. I'm like, that's just saying that you're really suggesting is that you should be taking her perspective and her side on this. Which, you know what? I appreciate that, but at the same time, it's like it's robbing my ability to make my own decision about the movie, and that's where I feel like that's where the power is, because again, I totally agree. I feel like if this is three different perspectives, like and there's a court scene, and what's really crazy, Sean, did you know that one of Alejandro Jodorowsky's sons is one of the lawyers in that movie?
Really?
Did you know this? Yeah. Like he plays one of the lawyers in that movie, like in that courtroom scene. And I'm like, what? It's fucked up. There's something. I don't know why. It's just that you think of, it's like Jodorowsky is the guy who wanted Salvador Dali to be the emperor of the universe in his Dune.
Oh, speaking of,
and that's Christopher Walken.
I was going to say a side note to that. I think there's only two people who probably could play.
Shot on the Fourth.
Yeah, Shot on the Fourth.
Yeah,
I think maybe Walken's one of them, but he's not the one I would have picked initially.
Who?
when I think about it, I'm like, okay, it's gotta, because I think Salvador Dali is it. That's who you pick.
Yes.
And it's like who
you
is
pick.
Salvador Dali living right now? And I think that is Werner Herzog.
Oh my god.
I just.
Oh my god. Oh.
Especially if he's gonna like
Sean.
Yeah.
Sean, I'd go cinema homo for you right now.
Especially
And
if you think he's probably going. He's the what is it? The third stage navigators. He's saying
the spice
to bend the universe and
Dude, I just watched Jack Reacher the other day. He's perfect. Like I haven't watched them. I haven't even read any of the books. It's like you don't. He exists in his own solar system. Yeah. Like he comes into the movie and it's like where did you come from? You know, it's like he just comes from another world. You know?
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah. And then they use and then he was in Mandalorian. Did you know that?
Yes.
Yeah, he was in Mandalorian. Oh my god, man. Yeah. I read the second I read Dune Messiah a couple of months ago actually. And cuz I read the first book like when I was in high school. And then I read God Emperor of Dune, which is like book 4. Because I was doing a thing where I was going to read the books I had, and that was just happened to be it. And there's some crazy great ideas in that book, like great in the sense of like, holy shit, this is like how come nobody's ever thought of this before? And I don't know if you want me to go into it, but there's like some like crazy shit that happens. Oh my gosh, but yeah, I almost wish he casted Werner Herzog now. There's something just cruelly appropriate about that, and
well, I'm not sure. Like I get it. Like the type of thing where like Christopher Walken's almost kind of become like he's become a character.
Yeah, he has. Yeah.
And he's kind of been one for a little while now. But I think part of it is also that like he also plays it up to that. Whereas I think Werner Herzog just is.
Yes.
Hell, you probably could have had a Herzog show up to set and not given him any lines.
Mm-hmm.
And he probably would have still gotten you gold.
Yeah. He's sort of like if Harry Dean Stanton was Christ, he'd be the Antichrist. Right? Like Harry Dean Stanton shows up, it's like you don't know what he's gonna do, but it's gonna be kind of like homely, and you know there's a decency to Harry Dean Stanton, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas Werner Herzog is like, I will pull this from the depths of hell and kiss it and lick it, and it will be mine. You know, I can't even do his fucking accent, but still, it's.
That wasn't bad. Yeah.
I gotta work on that. Yeah. But something else I wanted to bring up. Shit, I forgot what it was. Well, but on the heels of the Christopher Walken thing, I think Weapon of Choice and then I Need More Cowbell had a lot to do with him becoming a character over the years.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Because I remember when that skit came out, that was like the it like punchline for a while. like for in the early 2000s, that was like, you know, that was like, we need more cowbell, and everybody would die laughing.
Yeah.
And then I don't know when Weapon of Choice came out, because I remember like that video popped up on YouTube like on the recommendations for me recently, and I'm like, holy shit, I haven't seen this in a long time. You know, it's hilarious with the stuff that came out when we were in college and we were younger, that when you look back on it, you're like, oh, okay, you know. It scares me a little bit how impressionable we can be, you know. Don't you think? It's like you see the shit and you're like, oh wow, is this something that we have to aspire to? I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think it's getting to that time where, I think should probably wrap up. I'm surprised the baby hasn't been screaming. I'm surprised I've been on this long, actually. I thought I'd be wrapping up a while back.
Yeah.
But, go ahead.
Yeah, I can cut this part out, but I just wanted to say, earlier you said that you had some dark places. Is that
places?
Is that? I mean, are you okay? You need to talk about things.
No. Thanks for bringing that up. I was. Oh yeah, I know. You know what it is?
So.
Oh yeah, of course. No. It's not. It's. I said. I think I didn't say dark. I think I said heavy.
Heavy. Oh, that's the word you used.
Heavy, and the sense that from Sean, you know what it is? It's for me. It's like I have to find the right kind of I guess segue into it, because it's such a for me it's like a dramatically different conversation. And it's not like it's not relevant, because I feel like for all our tangents, and you know what, I have to say, every time we listen to one of these things, like when the last one, episode 5, I didn't listen to for a while because it's like life was happening, and then I messaged you when I was listening to it, and I was like it was after dinner and I was cleaning up, and I had such a it was so fun to listen to, and in spite of what our respective verbal shortcomings there might be, I know I repeat myself quite a bit, I use certain words a lot, but there's a spirit to this what we do that I may forget about a little bit, but then I'll go back and especially for the ones I did listen to and listen again, and I'll listen to it for the first time, and I'm like, wow, this is actually fun to listen to. And this sort of touches on the heavy part of it, that the heavy thing I guess I wanted to kind of bring up, but not to say it didn't, but I was trying to find the right kind of way to get into it, is that I don't have anybody that I can really just go into this kind of stuff with. And that's not an entirely bad or sad thing for me. It's more like I guess the older I get, the more okay, you know what? I know there's other things I want to do with my life or other interests that I have. But at the end of the day, it does feel like, you know what? This is kind of my core kind of interests. And for one reason or another, the people I used to sort of associate with to talk about this kind of stuff are not there. And it's not like maybe it's my fault, or maybe it's their fault, or I don't know, maybe it's a mutual thing, and I guess that saddens me a little bit, but it goes down to the fact it's wow, I kind of want to have fun in this realm, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to okay, do I really want to go out and start watching a lot of movies again, or even watch anime again, or even play certain video games again, because am I still that person? I don't know if I am or not anymore. I don't know if I can legitimately enjoy stuff. For instance, I remember there was a whole bunch of people I used to hang out with who when the new Star Wars were coming out, they were kind of into it. And I was like, guys, this is stupid. This is not going well, And I felt like an asshole saying it and feeling that way. But at the same time, I don't know. Maybe it's or maybe it's a personality thing. Maybe it's a Spanish hereditary thing, a hot-bloodedness kind of thing, Mediterranean thing. I don't know. But I always feel very sensitive when it comes to people having opinions. Not that they shouldn't have them, that they should express them, and especially with the way the world is now, or has been, I guess. I don't know. I mean, you can easily write this off to being decades old, problem, but it's just that for me, I'm very sensitive to the whole notion that when you open your mouth, people will interpret what you say almost very quickly, unless you're speaking with somebody who has the patience to listen. And then, you'll be able to actually have a conversation with that person. And for me, lately it's been more like, okay, do I really want to go into that world that I grew up in again? And I guess, spend my time, but also spend my money on these things. And do I even have that same, like appreciation or love for it? I guess by, talking about it as much as I do and being, getting enthusiastic about it as much as I do, I still have that, that love and passion maybe for these things. I know a lot of this stuff is kind of like maybe just like, male hobbies. I won't deride that criticism. Not to say that anybody said that to me, just that the more older I get, I'm like, wow, is this really even worth it? You know what I mean? And, for all the talk we do about like movies and, movies being, how movies are made and, making our own stuff and so forth. I see some of the stuff that the people that we love put out now, and I'm like, it's like the compass has been lost. There's like something that's spinning, and I don't mean to be like existential about it, but it almost feels like that. And I don't know if this is me projecting. Maybe it is. And I guess I don't know. Maybe it's just one of those things where it's like I have to get myself straightened out and then find a bit more direction in my own life in order to maybe enjoy anything. I don't know if that's the case either, frankly. I'm sorry, I'm coming up short in regards to like trying to explain myself, but
yeah, I'm gonna tell you, it's I know where you're coming from.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's it is getting late, but I will say that I totally understand it, and it's something that bothers me on almost a daily basis where. Yeah. There has been a certain lack of joy for certain things.
Yeah.
And it bothers the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The only real joy, I mean, aside from like family stuff, right? Seeing my daughter's smiling faces, right? The only real joy I have creatively, the only joy that I have, aside from that stuff, is just when I finish writing something. Like I was just like, I know we took an extended break from doing this stuff on the regular, right? But it was because I was like, you know what, I have to focus on getting this shit out, right? And then my strategy sort of changed, where now what I'm doing now is kind of like, okay, you know what? I have my denser stuff that takes me forever to work on, but I need to speed it up, and I need to write things that are just, kind of like not just one and done, but I can't think about it too much. Because the other stuff, that's for me, that's me pondering it and becomes ponderous in of itself. But then I need to do stuff that you just like whip it out, done, finished. I can't think about it too much. And that's where I've been kind of like, that's where I've been redirecting my energies a little bit, because it's like Amazon sort of taught me this, right? Where I've handled packages, how many thousands of packages a day, and I don't have time to dwell on any single one of them for too long. And not to say this affects, I guess, I don't know if this affects the quality of the work that I do, but I know that I published something recently on my Facebook, writing thing, and I'm getting likes and not comments, but just reactions to it, which take it or leave it. I don't know what that means exactly, but it kind of is gives me a bit more juice, and then from there it's like, you know what? As long as I keep putting something out there, then that's a little bit of the engine going, And as long as I put things out that I know, that I feel like, you know what, this is something that came from me. I'm not exactly expecting it to be, like, as you said in many episodes ago, high art, but it's something that I'm kind of loving and I'm kind of passionate about. So I'm just going to live like these drops here and there. Whereas as that keeps going, I can also redirect my energies elsewhere, and I'll be able to, reharvest what I had before, and so on and so forth. So that's, I mean, and in the doing of that brings me happiness. I don't know. That's what as close as I've come lately to that.
All right, yeah. I mean, a lot. Take the Sweet Darkness thing. there's been, like the closest thing I've come to wanting to do something like that was wanting to do something with Paddington the bear. I mean, Paddington from the movie. And I either wanted to stick him in the end credits of Cloud Atlas, because what's his face is in Cloud Atlas, the guy who's the voice of Paddington. Forgetting his name.
Yeah, I'm forgetting it too.
He's Q in the James Bond movies now.
Ben Whishaw.
Yeah,
Ben Whishaw. Yeah. Whishaw.
I heard on a podcast somebody said he is every girl of a certain age's dream husband, regardless of the fact that he's gay.
Yeah.
Because he's
there's a lot of gay men like that.
He's so quiet and he's so gentle. He is Paddington Bear.
He's Paddington Bear.
Or putting him in a scene from Downton Abbey. Something with him and Hugh Bonneville, who's in Downton Abbey and also in Paddington.
Yeah. Yes.
Because somebody actually joked about taking scenes from Paddington 2, I think it is, and putting them in Cloud Atlas. And I was like, well, that'd be funny. I was like, you should find a way just to stick Paddington in the credits. Because at the end of Cloud Atlas, every actor, they show all the different characters they play. So
yes,
for
that's right.
Yeah, for Ben Whishaw, you'd have like all the different people, and then one of them would be Paddington. I'm like, what is this shit nowadays? It's these TikTok videos that I don't understand. And I was like, man, I'm getting fucking old. And I asked somebody who's not, I mean, maybe 10 years younger than me. But I was like, what? I don't understand. I don't understand most of these TikTok videos that I've seen. Or reels that are on like Facebook.
Yeah.
And it's they seem to be inside jokes. Or everybody keeps like going, it'd be funny if I take this song that everybody seems to use and put it on 3 or 4 seconds of a clip that make no sense at all.
No, I've seen them too.
Because I was like, and I actually said, I was like, I don't understand what this is. And somebody was like, don't worry, nobody does.
It's hilarious. Why do we get away with this? Like, you should go to fucking jail for stuff like this. I don't think it's that bad shit. Well, maybe it is, but I don't know. It kind of reminds me of Edward James Olmos in Blade Runner.
Yeah, that's all it's just gaff speak.
Gaff, yes, that's it. Yeah. What are you saying?
I was like, this is like the what's her face, Juliette Lewis and Giovanni Ribisi and the other sister playing special needs people, and making a romance. I was like, that's illegal, man. That's people
awkward as shit.
This should not be a movie. What the hell is wrong with you people?
Well, you know what though? I think you know what kind of woke me up to the fact that I should be like, a part of me should be a little bit more like production model based, as scary as that sounds, was the fact this is kind of funny because I get the Amazon experience happening, and then out of all people, over the winter I was catching episodes. Angry Video Game Nerd.
No.
Have you ever heard of Angry Video Game Nerd? Oh my god, this guy. So it's this guy James Rolfe, right? Who is probably maybe between our ages. He's probably 40. Because I'm turning 38 in a few weeks. As crazy as that
you're
sounds.
A baby.
I'm a baby, yeah. So, and then I think he was born maybe in 83, like 81, something like that. 82, 81, something like that. So, but the thing of it is that he very much into movies, horror movies as well. Oh. Is she awake? Hold on, Sean.
Okay.
Let me see. Right back. Hey, I'm back. Sorry about that. It was actually Sabrina, because she goes. I go, is everything okay with the vape? And she goes, oh no, it's just me. I can't sleep without you. Like, are you kidding me right now? Oh gosh.
Well, we're probably wrapping this up.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I was talking about Angry Video Game Nerd really quick. So James Ralph, sort of closer to, well, no, he was probably into the same things that we're into, and he was into filmmaking. He's into horror movies, and he made a lot of his stuff when he was in high school, right, and growing up, and he's made like hundreds and hundreds of like short films, right. But then eventually, he was like, when he was going to like, I think it was University of the Arts in Philly, he started making this character called initially it was called Angry Nintendo Nerd, and he was like reviewing like these old video games, just criticizing them, whatever. This is like back, in like 2005, 2006, before everything took off, and he's probably like one of the fathers of like, like like video game like media criticism, in the YouTube sphere. Anyway, he started making these things like super low budget, just in his basement or whatever it was, these different places that he'd live, and he'd write the script, he'd do the effects, he'd shoot it, and then over the years he kept releasing them, and then he became huge. He's kind of like a quiet millionaire now, if anything, because he's sort of like, he has his family, and he still releases this stuff. But the difference now, it's kind of like he's very much kind of like muted now, as opposed to when he first started doing it, because he kind of grew up, sadly, or maybe not sadly, but it took away from his character a little bit. The reason I bring this up is because I watched him back when shortly after we had left SVA, right? And then I stopped watching him for maybe 10 years. Like, I watched him for a few years, but then I stopped watching him for a decade. And then just recently, I watched this 3 or 4 hour long documentary about, his rise and fall. I'm like, whatever happened to this guy? I'm curious. And I mean, maybe that sounds a bit too dramatic, rise and fall. I mean, he's still alive, he's healthy, he's well, as far as I know. He has his family. But it's clear that he had a journey with this character in his work. And what I really appreciated about him early on was that he kind of embraced being scrappy. He created this brand. I hate calling it a brand. He created this thing called Cinemassacre. That's his website, cinemassacre.com. And he was like, you know what? I don't care the quality of this stuff. I just want to do it. I just want to get it done. I just want to get it out. And I just want to make sure that I'm doing the stuff that I love, and it may not be exactly 100%, but I'm still doing it. So I'm watching his older stuff. And as I'm gradually making my way to his newer stuff's way more polished. The lighting is way more even. The technology is way better. The editing. Well, the editing's always been great. He's done, but he has money now, right? Okay. And he has sponsorships now, and he'll say, after the word from our sponsor, which he never used to do before. Before, he'd just make the thing, and then he'd be off to the races. He'd be off and running. It was fantastic. And now, because of his commitments, right? He's just more of a whereas before he was kind of the raging rebel. Now he's kind of the sort of the mild-mannered kind of guy, right? Who still curses, but it's not the same. Anyway, what I derived from this was you know what? He didn't care how it was done. He was just doing it. And I kind of Sabrina and I went to a spa, just take the day off or whatever. I left Satya with my parents, and we sort of snuck off to a spa so close by, and we were just hanging out there. And it occurred to me, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try doing this. I'm just gonna step away from the harder more time consuming stuff, because that's always gonna be there as far as I'm concerned. And just do the shit that sort of rapid production and see how that gets done. And Sean, I've written like I've not to say this is like a miracle story because I'm still in the middle of it, but I've gotten a lot done, which is saying something for me because it's like I have like a lot of like stuff that's been like stuff that just came out of me that I didn't even know like was there because I didn't let myself experience it. And I feel like maybe not that I shouldn't maybe you should give it a try. I don't know because I feel like if you let yourself be open that way. I mean, if you haven't done it already, but you can just let it come out, right? And then you don't have to, because I know you edit it as you go, and I used to be the same way. But nowadays, I've kind of accepted them all. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna, put my best foot forward, right? And then, when I get to the point where I'm done with something, I'll set it aside, do something else, right? Then set that aside and return to the first thing. And then that way I'll get a fresh point of view on it. And sometimes you'll see connections between the two, and most times you don't. But at least you'll get to see something there that you can work on and then you can put out there. Like I wrote this thing, I sent it to you like the other day. It's called, see, this is one of those things I didn't plan on, called, The Anomaly of Alex Cady. And I was just in bed, like writing. I'm like, I want to write something. What should I write? And it's like, it's turned out to be the story of this girl who sleeps for like 1,000 years. And she wakes up like in this, weird, machine dominated environment run by this, artificial intelligence that turns out just wants to study human dreams because it's a demon. As crazy as that shit sounds, right? Yeah. But still, it was like there, and I'm like, holy shit, that's crazy. And that, and part of the work was just going on the adventure with it, And then I don't know, it is what it is. So anyway, I took those the two takeaways was like, okay, well, you know what, I want to see what it's like if I do this sort of fast, because I know I have my more quality, more like, in-depth stuff sitting on the back burner, right? But I need to be fast with this stuff. Like, I wish I figured this out like years ago. Like, I really did. Like, ironically, I couldn't have, because a lot of the stuff that I use now, that I implement now in the work that I do in this area at least, took time for me to get to. So I don't know. It's a conundrum. I wish I knew this stuff. Like it's the confidence thing. I don't know. I wish I knew this stuff then, because then I probably would have been more together. I don't know. But it brings me some joy and self-satisfaction when it comes to like getting some things done, because I know I got a lot of stuff like in the back burner and I hate it, and I always try to work it out. It always tends to be the stuff that I deliberately know, like, okay, this has to be like this. And then when it's not getting to the be like that, it takes me forever. Like I needle and I whine to myself, and I'm like, it's got to be like this. It's got to be like this. Whereas time is passing by, I have a house and a daughter and a wife, and I don't even know if I'll get to live out the dreams I had for myself. But doing this kind of shit helps. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I hope this brings you some sort of insight, because it really helped me when I'm like, okay, you know what? I cannot think too much about this right now, because I know that I have other things I have to think about. I'm not talking about like practical things. I'm talking about like the more creative stuff that I think is the more creative stuff. And I got another story coming up, which is long as shit, that I think you might appreciate, because it talks about some of the subjects that we've talked about, especially for SVA, that I think you're going to enjoy. It's kind of, actually, I mean, do you mind if I read you a little bit of this? Because, or do you want to just head out? It's much? 2 o'clock. I don't know. Well, it's maybe best to save it for another time, because I don't want to take up your time too much here. But the first part of this has to do with like being in a writing class with a writing teacher, and trying to like find out what your voice is, and when you have other voices saying like, maybe you should try it like this, maybe you should try it like that, ironically enough, right? And you have an idea of what it should sound like, but how do you like champion yourself and advocate yourself? It's so fucking funny, because I think about these things ahead of time. Like, how am I going to do this stuff? How do I want to like get it out there, right? But then when I don't give a shit, this stuff just comes out. And it really is frustrating, because it's like, how much forethought can you put into something? Yeah. Maybe my error has been like trying to think of it too much. Like, I don't know. I feel like the downside to like studying Kubrick, this was what happened, because I was like, Kubrick did a lot of this shit, right? And I'm like, okay, well, because he was a master, do I have to imitate him? Well, I guess that's out the window now, because now I'm like, okay, I'm just trying to do the work that I know, which is probably the most important thing, I guess. I don't know. There's a lot of vulnerable stuff,
Yeah.
It's not easy talking about this stuff. I mean, it's really hard, because you really think that, okay, it'll go in one direction, but then it won't go in another, and then it goes in something completely different, and it's deceptive. It's like the best thing you can do is probably just put things out there and just leave it alone and see what it does to people.
Yeah,
that's
an interesting way to look at it. Yeah.
I don't know. It's right now. I got like, this is crazy to even me, because I can't believe this is happening. I got like, what is this? I got like 1,000 and something like reactions to the Alex Katie story, and I don't mean to brag. This is just, I got most of the times I get nothing, so this is astonishing to even me, and well, I mean, we'll see what happens with this, because it's like, I don't know, it's something that it's just building a business, I guess. I don't know, man. I guess that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Well, right now it's like, okay, how do we fix your funk? Because how do you get the joy from your life? That's what I'm worried about now. For you?
Yeah. I'm not sure. The easy answer was that I was kind of hoping that kind of getting out there would be a first step for me, regardless of any kind of because I don't know. It's a question. I guess I have I have a lot of issues that have to be dealt with, and I don't know. I mean, this is something. This is something that I've got. I've got some other people in my life that are also trying to figure it out.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. But what sucks about like this is what I noticed about when you're like trying to solve your shit out. It's just that when you're busy doing it, it somehow feels like you're compounding it a little bit, don't you think? Because I feel like I've dwelt on my shit for a while, and it was nice to like whenever I try to articulate myself in written form or whatever, it would help. At the same time, it's like it still feels like undisciplined, even for me. Like I don't even know if the idea is that you write something out and it's cathartic and it gets outside of you somehow. Like you exercise it in a way. But I mean, for what I observed, it's like, yeah, you build like these little bridges, but then it's like, is that how you get past things? Is there like a big kind of like emotional kind of moment? I haven't gotten there. Like I haven't found that. Is that supposed to happen? I don't know, man. I don't know if I don't know if am I doing something wrong? Am I supposed to be on a spirit quest or something? Like that's, like I think about like this sort of, I think about these ideas, like should I have stuck with, should I have been like, like should I, like my parents, come from Spain, so should I have moved back? Should I become like more traditional? Should I have like, married a Spanish girl? Should I have become more, Roman Catholic? Become more like more to that idea conservative. Would that like would that have brought me like more happiness or inner fulfillment? I don't know. Like all I know is that I live in America, and you when you're growing up, you take a lot of shit for granted, and it's double, and there's like a double-sided nature to it. Like this, like there's some stuff you take for granted that everybody should know about and they should have, and then there's other stuff that you take for granted. I think that affects you in a way that you don't know about for like at least 20 or 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fucked up. Because it's like you don't it's like going to a party and then people talking shit about you, but you don't know about it. And then later on you're like, later on in your life it's like, oh, remember that one party? Like, yeah, you were so fucked up. You're like, wait, I was? You had no idea. You had no idea. Anyway, are you going to see Top Gun at all, or like any of the new movies coming out?
I mean, I would have liked to have gone to the movies. It's I don't know.
Yeah.
It's I think it would have been easier for me to have done it prior. I mean, the girls are going to be out of school soon.
Yeah.
Also, the thing with my arm was kind of like limited.
Holy shit! Can we go back to that a little bit? I don't know if do you want to talk about that in the cast, or should we just wrap up soon and we can talk about it off air? Whatever you want to do. If you want to bring it up, I don't. God, we moved on like a lot away from that. I'm so sorry.
No,
I wanted to ask how that
fine.
happened.
I mean, what had happened was I was given a job to do an embalming, and I showed up and the person was overweight and ill-shaped, and the embalming table was like at a weird pitch and was stuck that way.
Oh shit!
So I was trying to jerk her up to get her up on the table. And she wasn't moving too well, and with all the jerking motions and such, I like strained and like possibly minor like these minor tears in my
in your
ligaments in my
wrist?
my wrist.
Yeah.
So I've been having a hard time holding like small items in my hand. That's sucks.
Is it? I mean, aside from this, but is it strange for me to say a little bit that I'm definitely a little bit, and I hope you don't take this the wrong way, because I certainly don't mean this the wrong way, but I'm a little bit in awe that you decided to go in this direction in your life sometimes, because for me that was like, for me it's like, oh, when I first heard about you doing this, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. And that's exceedingly practical, and that's really. I thought, like, I did think of like, oh shit, should I be doing something like that? Maybe not, being working in the mortuary field, but like having like a decidedly different craft than whatever this is. It's not a bad idea, and you doing this stuff is just, for me, is like, shit, that's like another side of you that I don't know about, and I'm not sure if I want to know about, but it's intriguing. Because you got into it because of Anne, basically, right? Because Anne's father or grandfather was into this? Like he studied this?
Yeah, she her father was one, like, many, many, many years ago, even before she was around.
Yeah. And it's like a practical, like, just life advice, just to like have something that that you can default to almost, because then you're always going to be embalmers, sadly.
But I can't really continue doing this. I mean, besides the fact that it's fucking my arm up. But I mean, this sounds like a cliche. I'm sorry, but it's like the psychological toll on doing that's
it. That's
not great either. It's
especially over the past couple of years. Yeah. So it's like, no wonder you're like, you're also like, dark place. Of course, I get it. I didn't. I think I do anyway. So I almost wish that's like kind of like a tawdry comparison, but I mean, I hope you don't mind. I hope we can relate to each other a little bit, because it's like, hey, it's like Do you really want to be doing this kind of shit that we're both respectively doing? Not really. Say the least. I should have stuck out and been a directing major in SVA all those years ago. One of the hundreds of people. Oh man, that would have been fun. Oh man, so I guess maybe it's time to wrap up.
Yeah. Okay.
After 4 hours. But all right, this has been episode 6 of the ever ongoing saga of Sean Nolan and Juan Gonzalez, one of the many Juan Gonzalez's in the world. But this is just Juan Carlos Gonzalez Jr. And what else can we say, Sean, to wrap this up? Be good.
I don't know, there's a shortage of sriracha.
This has been an episode all about gay marriage. He used to say like, "Oh, like, hi, my name is Sean Nolan, and this episode's all about gay marriage."
That was a joke I saw from American Dad, where
oh really?
Yeah, one of the side characters. He's I think it was dog racing or something, and the one neighbor, his name is Tuttle, and he goes,
Tuttle.
He's like, who's announcing this dog race? It's me, Tuttle. And now you get to hear about my thoughts on gay marriage.
On gay marriage.
And it's Richard Kind.
Really?
Yeah, there's a hilarious thing. Just to go off of this, Richard Kind is driving down the street in the show as Tuttle, and he's got the music blaring, and he's singing, "Cut my life into pieces." And I'm like, oh my God, Richard Kind had to get in front of a microphone and sing this.
This is hilarious. I can't believe they actually did this. This is so funny. Holy fuck. Oh my God, that's hilarious, man. Oh, this is my last resort. God, I've heard that song fucking forever, too. It's so crazy. And on that note... our friends out there, we're tired of shit. We didn't expect to be going on as
well.
We never do.
I thought this was going to be like a mini cast, and it kind of
but then knowing us,
it's almost kind of turning into
a regular cast.
Yeah.
No, the fact that Sabrina was still kind of up and like, no, you guys do this because you guys never do this. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So she was like, she's sleeping and the baby's sleeping, and she was taking care of her. So anyway, that's besides the point. I know we have another full one. Sean's gonna, hopefully not break his wrist too much editing this together. Not that much to edit anyway. I would hope. Sean, there
might be some, some content
gaps,
things that I just, I'm gonna make executive decisions on. But
not true. That's stuff I know I leave it up to you. Really, because it's like the other stuff have been so good, I'm not going to even say anything. But in regards to what I had to share, you make up your own mind. I don't think we should cut it out with the stuff that the heavy stuff that I said towards the end there, but because I think it might be really good and more aligned to what we do here with whatever this is. Yeah. So if you feel like you should cut it out over time, it's interesting. Just do your thing. But buddy, love you guys out there. Thanks for listening. The whole we might be getting more people listening in on this if the stuff with the Facebook stuff happens a bit more. I've seen some people I've seen the because I used to share the older casts on that Facebook page, on that particular Facebook page, and I've seen it's getting a lot more views recently. Not on YouTube, but I guess the post. So maybe there'll be a transition happening, and then maybe they'll be interested in clicking on this stuff.
Well, if you tag it or label it something like Kim Kardashian or Harry Styles, we get more hits.
Oh yeah, well, that's what we have to do in life. We have to.
Okay.
Well, Kim Kardashian's always going to get hits. You know what I mean? Yeah. And Harry Styles is all about the hits. Yeah. I can't believe he was in. Yeah.
Okay. we're starting back up. So
Shit. Anyway, we should stop. Done. Done. Done.